Chapter 1140, Stirring Trouble. Chapter 1140, Stirring Trouble. Proofreader, Papatonks. Ah, who are you? Luo Sifin came to with a start at the beastly and naked man throwing himself at her. She snapped her hands forward out of reflex, pushing him back into the floor and making him cough blood. The drug had long since taken over the Prince of Harvest's mind, numbing his senses and taking away his reasoning. Regardless of the pain, he only saw the girl as a tasty morsel, coming at her with lust in his eyes. Luo Sifin was scared silly, but her instincts as a peak radiant stage cultivator kicked in once more, flinging the deranged man away and bleeding. The man was so far gone he cared not for his life, going for her again and again, only to be repelled every time. By the 30-ish time Prince of Harvest's fat body got bounced back, he looked battered all over, but his eyes never lost their ravenous hunger as they sought out Luo Sifin. Luo Sifin was horrified even though she won. Murong Shui looked inquisitively at Zhuofan. Why? Why what? You had him restrained, so why let him go so the girl would deal with him? Zhuofan said, I feel like finding out what Bailey Jingwei is up to, and for that I let him win. You let him win? Sure. I've had my eyes on the central area for years now and I'm planning on destroying it soon, for my plan to return. I can't wait a moment longer. As for why I held back, one is because Bailey Yuqian's a mystery and two, Central Area's recovery in these recent years has been going far too easily. You've seen for yourself how strong Central Area was in the war, stronger than all four lands forces. Zhuofan sighed, unless it makes a move no one can shake that rock. Now that he finally showed his hand, I'm not about to stop him. Murong Shui's brow shook, then why did you stop his savage act for a moment there? You could have not interfered at all. Miss Murong, know this, I let him move but I also have my limits. No harm will ever come to a Luo clansman. Zhuofan eased a long breath. In all fairness, my plan would have been in motion all the same if Dan Qingshen had killed Yunhai. But I stepped in because he cannot die. The same went for stopping the crazed prince so Sifin wouldn't get hurt. By letting him act, I allowed Bailey Jingwei's plan to continue as I moved under this distraction. Nothing would have happened since Sifin is at peak radiant stage while the prince is just a fresh radiant stage cultivator. It'll only make Yunhai feel bad is all. Murong Shui gasped, looking away, I don't get what you're saying at all, schemer. Haha, Miss Murong, you're catching on. The you before would have butted in on the spot to help the needy, for the common good, for righteousness and purging of evil. Now you have learned patience. No, I haven't. It's because I'm still of two minds on what is right or wrong, and I don't want to make the wrong judgment. I've seen the people go through countless changes this 100 years, which only plunged me into deeper confusion. Now I'm going with you so I can see your choices. Murong Shui squinted. Zhuofan smirked. Miss Murong, I'll share with you a story, one that will clear all doubts about right and wrong, good and evil. I listened to it in my travels through the 5 lands. It was illuminating, so much that my heart grew incredibly while my cultivation dropped 5 layers. Dropped. Sure did. True self-art focuses on the heart and heart alone, bringing one back to one's true nature. Getting stronger is pointless, with only a growing heart and mentality would prove fruitful. Once reaching one's origin, I will finally see for myself what the world Dao really is. Now I'm interested to hear it. Murong Shui showed a rare smile, a sight for sore eyes, yet lost on Zhuofan. Bam. That marked the 50th time Prince of Harvest went on the offensive and was repelled. The pain and hurt his body endured had no way of breaking through his drug-addled mind still, getting his feet under him with a loony smile and greedy eyes. Completing the picture was the constant blood coming from his mouth, mixed with bits and pieces from his innards. Luo Sifin's brow shook hard, unable to look at the ghastly figure. Who is this freak? He's like the living dead. Doesn't he feel any pain? Hee. Prince of Harvest twisted his body, taking another step for Luo Sifin. Blood poured out of him still, driven by only one instinct to mate. The innocent girl felt sick to her stomach, opting to dodge this time. The doors burst open just then and the 2 guards flew in followed by 2 new people, Sister Sifin. Long Jianshan and Xian Yinyang had arrived. Watching Prince of Harvest's bizarre shape going for Luo Sifin had them in shock just then. Who the hell are you? Don't touch her. The 2 coordinated perfectly, one with a palm, the other with a kick, striking the vitals of the beaten prince. Long Jianshan was ruthless enough to even go for Prince of Harvest's heart, punching a hole in the fat man's chest. Xian Yinyang did an overhead kick right at the face, removing the head from that gross body. Blood gushed everywhere, while the headless Prince of Harvest twitched once before splattering in his own blood. That was my claw, I saved Siphon. That was my kick, I saved Sister Siphon. Ignoring the corpse, the two stared daggers at each other, then rushed at Luo Siphon's side. Sister Siphon, are you all right? With a blank face, Luo Siphon finally snapped awake, pointing at the corpse. Who is he? Prince. A cry came before they could reply. The two guards turned their gaping expressions from the blood to the three as they spewed fire. You have some nerve to kill Sword Star Empire's Prince of Harvest. You killed the Sword Star Empire's envoy and have declared war on us. Sword Star Empire's envoy. The trio shook all over, then went slack from shock. We're done for. Zhuofan chuckled from the shadows. Oh, the brats are in for it now, ha. Is this Bailey Jingwei's plan? Dragging Western lands into a war? If it were that easy, he wouldn't be Bailey Jingwei. Or, he can't suffer from it, ha. Zhuofan waved her off, walking away. Bailey Jingwei has started, and so shall I. I've waited 100 years for this. Wu Randong, your bitter wait is at an end. In the brightly lit Imperial Palace, with 3 rows of guards inside and another 3 outside, making it foolproof, Yuan Yong attended the banquet held for the Sword Star Empire delegates, ridiculing, "Third brother, it's been ages since my last feast in the Imperial Palace. Feels awfully foreign. Since when did a third-rate empire have soul harmony guards? And dozens of them too. Third brother, you've sure gotten the empire far, ha. Imperial brother, there's no need for hazing. The Luo Alliance sent the guards for your protection. I am but the lord of a meager empire and have no right to have even one soul harmony expert in my employ. To be frank, master is only at the 5th layer of ethereal stage." Yuan Song spoke coldly. Luo Yunhai's group stared hard at him. Yuan Yong sneered, "Fang Qiubai? Isn't he Tianyu's divine dragon? Why is he such a disappointment? Only 5th layer ethereal stage? That's my level." "Haha, brother is Sword Star Empire's deputy minister of war, enjoying lush resources unlike our barren lands. It's normal for brother to outdo master." Yuan Yong nodded. "Right you are, brother. Central area's environment is way better than here. Take the lowest official in the central area and you still won't find any weaker than the emperor here." In face of such an empty taunt, Yuan Song smiled, to each his own ambition. Some like to be the head of something however small, while others prefer to bask in the glorious stool of others, to smell their stench. There's no forcing one's nature. Sometimes not just any can be a leader no matter how much they try. The bite Yuan Yong placed in his mouth shook, his face darkening from fury. "You have guts, Yuan Song." Luo Yunhai was stern, while the guards drew around the emperor. Yuan Yong's fury abated, snickering at everyone's tense looks. "Brother, why do I feel these guards aren't here to keep me safe, but you instead? Brother, by no means do I deserve such honor." Ignoring the empty formality, Yuan Yong's eyes shone. Sometimes the guard's level matters not when they protect the wrong asset. Luo Yunhai's face fell, staring hard with a frown. What's that supposed to mean? Chapter 1141, Ruse. Chapter 1141, Ruse. Proofreader, Papatonks. There's huge trouble. Panicked cries echoed out into the hall from outside, making everyone frown. Yuan Yong was the only one still sneering. The one howling staggered inside and Yuan Song shouted at him, "What's all this fuss? Speak clearly about what happened." "Yes, your majesty." The man wiped his heavy brow and bowed, still shaken up. "Your majesty, Sword Star Empire's envoy, Prince of Harvest Bali Yunming W's. Was what?" Everyone's hearts sank as Yuan Song howled. The man cried as he bowed, "Killed? What?" Yuan Yong smacked the table as he raged. "What did you say? What happened to the Prince of Harvest?" The man shook all over. "The envoy, Prince of Harvest, was killed." "Absurd. How could this have happened?" Yuan Yong raved and looked around. "Do any of you have any idea who Prince of Harvest is?" "He is the 15th grandson of His Imperial Majesty, bestowed the title of Prince at the age of 18, out of deep love. He was sent to the Western lands to entrust you with his safety and learn of the world. But you had an assassin at every corner I see. Sword Star Empire will not stand for this. Everything that comes is on you." Everyone's heart was in their throats. The Central Area envoy, a prince no less, was killed here. They had to answer for it, unable to escape such dire consequences. Yuan Song pondered. "Brother, it's too early to assume. You said that the prince was unwell and can't attend the feast. Then he must be in his quarters. How could he be assassinated? Yeah, the guards there are thorough. Not only deputies' men but also Luo alliances. How could there be a hit? Luo Yunhai spoke with conviction. Yuan Yong mocked, how should I know? Where was Prince of Harvest attacked? Yuan Yong looked with disdain at the man. Sir, Prince of Harvest was murdered, at Fragrant Manor. Fragrant Manor? A brothel? Yuan Tsong let it slip and earned the ire of his empress, Long Kuei, who whispered, what's with that quick reaction in calling it a brothel? Do you know it? No, not at all. I just heard about it, yeah, from Xiao Lizi, haha. Him? Won't an eunuch feel crushed going there? Long Kuei had a cruel smile. Yuan Tsong gulped and switched topics. Empress, this isn't the time for trifles. The envoy is dead with heavy implications. We must ascertain the truth. Brother, why did the Prince of Harvest, safe in his quarters, appear in a brothel? Is there something we should know? Yuan Tsong spoke earnestly, this is no longer a matter of protection. We can't protect him if your envoy goes wherever without telling us. We need to be aware of his every move, be it the brothel or the bathroom. Luo Yunhai gave the emperor a thumbs up. The emperor ain't just for show, so quick to shirk the blame. The empress did not complain further, knowing this was matters of national security. Yuan Yong rubbed his beard, his eyes flashing. Guard, execute all who were on duty. What's the point of them if they can't even notice the prince sneaking out? Yes. A man next to him bowed and ran off. Yuan Yong glanced at Yuan Tsong, satisfied with my unbiased decision, brother? Who's at fault will get the blame. I know how to be fair. I have no comment. Yuan Tsong refused to reply. Yuan Yong looked at the man he sent. Though the guards are punished for neglecting their duty, they're not to blame for the murder. Now who was it that killed the prince? Have you caught the outrageous criminal? Yes, but, the man hesitated, glancing at Luo Yunhai. Luo Yunhai's heart sank with unease. Yuan Yong demanded, stop blabbering and bring them here. Let us see who had the nerve to commit such a treasonous act. Yes. The man nodded and sighed as he went to pass the order. 5 people came in, escorted by many guards. Luo Yunhai cried out, Siffin? Dad. Luo Siffin teared up, looking victimized along with Long Jianshan and Xian Yinyang, alliance leader. What's the meaning of this? What did they do this time? You're supposed to bring the criminal, not a girl? Yuan Yong said the obvious. Prince of Harvest guards bowed and pointed at them. Deputy sir, these 3 killed the prince. The body is outside, scattered. What? Luo Yunhai gasped, I can't be. The 3 lowered their heads, admitting with their silence. Luo Yunhai held his head, with Yuan Tsong growing restless. What's with this girl getting involved in this huge problem? A ruse must be at play here. Yuan Yong snickered, his hand gushing with Yuan Qi. Since we have the culprits and it's due to our neglect, I shall do away with the criminals and not trouble you, ha. Yuan Yong's hand came down on Luo Siffin's head. Luo Siffin cried out in fright, the attack stopping inches from her hair. She cracked a frightened eyelid to see her father gripping the deadly attack with fury. Peak Soul Harmony Alliance leader, a man among men deserving his name, Humph. Yuan Yong's face shook, pain stabbing his hand as he released his attack, yet challenging Luo Yunhai. Alliance leader, what's this? You ought to know this matter involves the envoy and shouldn't be biased. I killed the guilty guards and killing the culprits should be the best resolution for you. Luo Yunhai took a deep breath, not releasing his grip, showing the deep worry plaguing his heart. Yuan Yong laughed. Alliance leader, are you impeding me in exacting judgment on the culprits? The Sword Star Empire won't stand for it. Central area and western lands will be at war because of you. Are you ready to take on such a burden? Brother Yunhai. Yuan Tsong cried out, figuring something out. What has niece been doing in a brothel? What exactly happened? Luo Yunhai came to, finding a lifeline, and asked, yes, what were you doing there? Dad, I don't know how, but as we walked around the city, someone knocked me out. The next thing I knew, some naked man jumped me and I smacked him back. I fended him off dozens of times but didn't kill him. Luo Siffin pleaded her innocence. Long Jianshan and Xian Yinyang bobbed their heads. Yes, Alliance leader, we chased the black figure, unable to catch him as he toyed with us. Then we reached a building where we heard Sister Siffin's screams and ran there. But the 2 guards at the door wouldn't let us in and we had to fight our way in. What we saw inside was a weird thing jumping Siffin. I acted without realizing, running my hand through his chest. I sent his head flying with a kick. Xian Yinyang admitted, we had no way of knowing he was the prince. Everyone knew then and there. It's a ruse, clear as day. Luo Yunhai glared at Yuan Yong, gnashing his teeth. Sir Yuan, you come at me, do not drag children into this. You didn't like how Dan Shen couldn't take my head, did you? Alliance leader, what are you saying? Everyone knows it's between you and Dan Shen. I represent an empire as a peaceful envoy. Why would I ever want the great marshal of the Western lands dead? Yuan Yong's words dripped with cruelty. You need to stop being so biased. Brats, you said someone did this to you. Well, where is he? The three lowered their heads in defeat. Chapter 1142, Pretexts. Chapter 1142, Pretext. Proofreader, Papatonks. Yuan Yong laughed, his eyes sharp. With no one around, you have no proof. For all I know, you could be making it up to save your hide. While your heavy crime of killing the prince is undoubtedly clear. We all heard you admit it. You're guilty and deserve to die. Yuan Yong snickered as he turned to Luo Yunhai. Alliance leader, is there something you wish to say? Luo Yunhai had a dark look on his face. I just want to know what Prince of Harvest was doing in the brothel. Yahoo! With such a tight guard around, Yuan Yong had an answer ready, turning to the two guards. Catching on, they cupped his hands. Deputy sir, the prince's character is known to all our people. Having come here as an envoy and unable to bring company, the prince had been feeling down these long days of travel. Now that we got to a big city, he disguised himself with normal clothes and slipped out. None here knew of the Lord's true identity, with only us following him. He was quite free, but then... I see you didn't let the prince out today just so he could go bed someone tonight? Luo Yunhai fumed at Yuan Yong. He knew then that with such a big welcome they held, the prince had just to show his face and everyone would know him for who he was. Their scouts would tail him from the shadows and make sure to keep him safe. Yuan Yong grinned cruelly, mocking, Alliance leader, you shouldn't accuse someone without proof. I won't hear it. Everyone here knows our prince had been bottling up his needs for so long and just wanted to let loose. But at the brothel, these brats killed him without reason. It was my duty to dole out punishment to the lax guards. The prince had no restraint over his lower head and got himself killed. What's left is to punish the killers. Then, Alliance leader, I'll be taking the brats if you wouldn't mind. Yuan Yong flicked his hand and guards went for the kids. Luo Yunhai shouted while defending them, let's see you try. Whoosh. In moments, many experts had Yuan Yong and his men surrounded instead, this being Luo Alliance's turf. Yuan Yong cared not, for his aim was achieved. Alliance leader, and what is this? Yuan Yong waved, I'm a Central Area envoy, a guest to Western lands that came here brokering peace. Our prince might have died without reason in your home, but we still have to be fair and not let this harm our talks. We only wish to give the Prince of Harvest justice. The same for anyone regardless of status, a life for a life. Everyone in the world agrees to this logic, and yet the Luo clan, hailed as righteous and loyal, can't? Or maybe you'd like the Central Area to drill it into you. Luo Yunhai's face twitched in anger, a vein popping from strain. No matter what, no one will lay a finger on them, or they'll have to deal with me. My alliance leader, that's some fire in you. In broad daylight, clearly shielding criminals and ruining the peace between our lands. Looking at him, then at the sky, Yuan Yong chuckled. I thought Double Dragon Manor answered for Western lands, but now I see the times have changed with the Luo alliance taking over. Hearts sank in panic, knowing he was throwing blame around just so the two would be at each other's throat. Yuan Song waved, brother, please don't say nonsense. The Luo alliance handling this area and Western lands defenses were agreed upon by everyone. Double Dragon Manor entrusted them with this duty. With such a serious situation, it's only proper for the alliance leader to make a thorough investigation. It's all within his right. Right? Humph. Yuan Yong mocked, what right would that be, when the three culprits are related to him yet he gets to investigate? Not to mention the truth is clear as day. Investigate what then? Alliance leader's reaction is clearly that of harboring them. Yuan Yong's accusation only grew wilder and wilder. Luo Yunhai was silent, stewing in rage. Fine, this is Luo Alliance's turf and we're just a group of delegates, unable to take the criminals from Luo Alliance. Let's go. Being at odds for a while, Yuan Yong smiled in the end, calling his men back. I'll be sure to report this to the Empire and the Double Dragon Manor. Let's see what they have to say. I only wanted to handle this quietly on account of Tianyu being my homeland, but you just keep fighting me on this. Now you'll suffer for it, humph. Yuan Yong glared at Luo Yunhai one last time, laughing as he walked out. Yuan Tsong panicked at the thought of making this matter bigger, rushing after Yuan Yong. "Brother, wait, please don't." Yuan Yong got what he wanted and saw no reason to waste words on the other. He rushed back, eager to send his report. "Prime Minister, the first step is complete, humph." 2 jade slips streaked the sky with their green light, reaching Bailey Jingwei and Double Dragon Manor in 3 days. That was the moment all the land's leaders came to know of Alliance leader Luo's daughter's crimes, to which Bailey Jingwei had his response ready from the start. Zither Sword King led 5 million soldiers of the Empire to ramp up the pressure on the border between the two lands, readying for war. "Bastard, this is just a pretext of Bailey Jingwei to take it out on Western lands." Bam. In the Double Dragon Manor, exalted He Ran slapped the table, holding 2 jade slips in the other, one reporting the events, the other being Yuan Yong's accusations. "It just happened, yet they already have men at the border? It was premeditated without question." Exalted by Mei sighed with a frown. "Yes, I did say there was something off about the 4 lands envoys. It was all a ruse. But why must it be us? The other lands are doing well, as if to state we're the ones at fault. We shouldn't have agreed to letting the envoy in the first place. What's the point of saying that now? Send the other 3 lands messages that we need to work together." Exalted He Ran rolled his eyes. Exalted by Mei nodded. "That's all we can do. At least 5 million isn't a lot. It doesn't look like Bailey Jingwei is ready for war." Double Dragon Manor's plea for help reached the other lands. Alas, relations weren't as good as before. Did they think Bailey Jingwei sent some pushovers to the other 3 lands? No renowned official he sent was weak in his book, that was for sure. A month passed, finding Zhuo Fan on his throne in a gloomy hall. Murong Shui was by his side, overlooking him laying out his meticulous plan. Below was the second young master of Serene Shores Trading, the envoy of Devil Palace, Wu Randong. "This is what I want you to do. You got all that? You'll have to endure for a bit." Zhuo Fan spoke. Wu Randong's brow moved as he bowed, looking excited. "Palace Lord, I've been waiting for this day for too long. Sir could even cast me aside and I'd still be at peace with it." "It's not casting you out but the winning move." Zhuo Fan grinned. "What about the Luo clan, how are they faring? They should be ready to give." Wu Randong bowed. "Palace Lord is correct. The Luo clan is stuck, assaulted from all sides. Double Dragon Manor asked for help from the other lands but were quickly rejected. Why would the 4 lands, united against the central area, sit back in Western lands' time of need?" Murong Shui frowned. "Even interdependent, they shouldn't just let Western lands go to war." Zhuo Fan shook his head, saying to Wu Randong, "Share the details with her." "Yes, Palace Lord." Wu Randong bowed, speaking gravely. "Miss Murong, the 3 lands are in opposition in this matter and not a whole. All because the central area holds the moral high ground." Murong Shui asked, "Moral?" To an empire, the envoy represents a nation's ruler. To sects, he represents a sect leader's authority. To the land's powers, he is a proxy to the highest power. By killing him, it's like killing the ruler he represents. No one could accept this unless you're out for war. Killing an enemy's envoy is like killing their leader. Wu Randong continued, "That's why this matter is taken as being the Luo clan's fault by any and all in the 3 lands while the central area is in the right. Adding to this, the central area's envoys are in their lands, all the reason why the 3 lands are finding it hard to step in." Chapter 1143, I'll bear it. Chapter 1143, I'll bear it. Proofreader, Papatonks. Zhuo Fan nodded. "This is morality, and the apparent righteousness all people have. It's universal law for one to repay with life or money for a crime. It stands at the core of every human, the basis of any human society. Without it, humans would be scattered, let alone having the common interest the 4 lands once had. That's why no one can oppose such a principle, for it's like denying yourself. As the Luo clan had no hard proof for their innocence, none would be taking their side. Palace Lord's talk of principle is the deepening discrepancy between the 3 lands. That is, whether or not it's worth helping the Luo clan. By siding with them in the open, it's like throwing away the sense of justice all people have. By turning a deaf ear, they fear the central area would use this chance to remove one of their allies. Adding to that, the central area's envoys are in their homes so they can hardly show any support, while also talking it out with the envoys in hope of diffusing this problem. That's precisely why war must have a good pretext. One must have the moral high ground or else the one at threat would be himself. Zhuo Fan smiled, though every land fears the Empire's war when there's no need to. Bailey Jingwei is so cautious and subtle, meaning the Sword Star Empire's frail stability would crack the minute any large deployment is made. For that reason he only sent 5 million soldiers at the border, to intimidate and bluster. Wu Randong nodded, Palace Lord is correct. Bailey Jingwei is now aware of Devil Palace and can no longer wage war on a grand scale like before. Though his scare tactic is no less believable to the lands, ha. The four lands are a shadow of themselves a century ago, suffering heavy losses. Zhuo Fan's face hardened, that can only mean to broker peace with Bailey Jingwei they need a scapegoat. Miss Morong will be going to the Luo clan again. If Yunhai recalls my actions, Bailey Jingwei's scheme will fall apart. But he isn't me. Zhuo Fan stood and walked, with Murong Shui on his heels. Wu Randong bowed, safe travels, Palace Lord. In the heart of Luo Alliance, everyone was looking pensive, waiting for Double Dragon Manor's message and trying to come up with a solution on their own. They kept coming back to the killing of Prince of Harvest. It was the only reason why the central area could show their might and send troops to intimidate despite the lands being against it. With the kids killing Prince of Harvest out in the open, the Empire coming for justice was only proper. They could say it was a trap all along, but the schemer was also sure to tie up any loose ends. That guy in black who took Luo Sifan was gone. With so many guards among the delegation, anyone could have put on a disguise and led the kids away. It's impossible. Zhuge Changfeng shook his head, worried as much as the other two. Bailey Jingwei must have set it up, but why? Is it just to target us? Even if we admit it, what then? It'll only take out some scapegoats. One prince for the life of 3 kids? Why would he do that? Lung Wuchang was solemn. It's obvious he's not after the brats with such a twisted trick. He knows clan head would never give them up. Lung Wuchang glanced at the pensive Luo Yunhai. Luo Sifan was in her mother's embrace, looking at her father with tears in her eyes. Whoosh! When Tao and Wu Qingqiu rushed in. How is it? Luo Yunhai jumped to his feet and welcomed them. What did the Exalted say? The two found it hard to speak, with Wu Qingqiu starting. Brother Yunhai, were the ones at fault while Bailey Jingwei had kept talking with the 3 lands to stay out of it. They take it as being against the 4 lands' common interest and nothing more than a personal grudge while hoping of diffusing this problem to avoid war. The Exalted, each man for themselves, to sacrifice them for the Western lands' peace. If the matter isn't settled, they would keep pushing us and the other 3 lands leaving us aside. I knew it. Zhuge Changfeng leaned back in his chair with a sigh. Luo Sifan cried in her mother's embrace. Mom? Sifan, it's all right. I won't let anything happen to you. Rubbing her back, Yuer's heart was torn as well. Luo Yunhai gnashed his teeth. In other words, the Exalted want my daughter to take the blame to make the central area retreat. The two hung their heads. Don't they know she's been set up? Luo Yunhai howled. Wu Qingqiu sighed. Anyone can see what is going on, but without proof, the central area had the pretext to wage war while the other lands have no reason to intervene. How could they help? Helping Luo Alliance harbor criminals? No leader of the 3 lands would ever accept this. The war must be right even if on the surface. It's not about the lands standing united, it's about reason. When Tao patted Luo Yunhai's shoulder, Brother Yunhai, sorry we're unable to give much help. Luo Yunhai's brow shook, looking at his crying daughter. His eyes shone and stormed out. No one chased him. Maybe Alliance leader needs time to calm down. 5 million soldiers wasn't many, but they had a Sword King leading them. When the war started, the death toll would be huge, something none from Western lands wanted to happen. 3 days later, Yuan Yong walked in the dead of night through a gloomy forest when someone popped in front of him. Yuan Yong smiled and cupped his hands. Alliance leader Luo, was it you that asked me to see me here? What would Alliance leader ask of me on this perfect night for murder? Let the children go? Luo Yunhai glared at him. Yuan Yong cackled. What's this, Alliance leader? It's a heavy crime for her to kill the Empire's precious prince. With the entire affair so huge, you just want me to let your daughter go? You're barking at the wrong tree. I'm just an envoy, a messenger. I don't have the authority to pardon a national criminal. Spare me the theatrics. We're the only ones here. Why are you doing this? Luo Yunhai shouted. Yuan Yong looked around, showing his sneaky grin. Nothing really. Our intent was plain from the start, to exact justice for Prince of Harvest. Take the culprits and punish them. Yuan Yong emphasized his words, reading Luo Yunhai's face. The kids didn't do crap. There's no point in taking them. Luo Yunhai caught his drift, squinting. I'll go with you. Bailey Jingwei is after me, isn't he? Then I'll go with you to the central area. Yuan Yong chuckled. To the central area? The Great Alliance leader Luo, with half of Western lands behind you, there's absolutely no reason to kidnap the mighty marshal. This would make your friends attack and we'll start another world war all over again. Although I haven't been in Western lands for many years, I also know very well that the Luo Alliance puts benevolence first and has many allies. Touching you is like poking the hornet's nest. Shove it. Don't you need a pretext? Luo Yunhai sneered. I made the brats kill Prince of Harvest, they're just like assassins that listen to my orders. I'll bear this blame. Take me the main culprit while leaving those nobodies aside. Yuan Yong stared in those firm eyes and chuckled. Is this true? My word is my bond. Great, since the alliance leader said it, I'll oblige, but no take-backsies. Yuan Yong snickered, his eyes shining. Alliance leader after you. Though you should know, the 5 million strong army at the border won't leave until you enter our empire's lands. You don't have to tell me. Luo Yunhai was calm, walking forward. Yuan Yong followed with a winning smile. In the morning of the next day, the delegation sent word to all Western lands a most shocking news. The alliance leader Luo, Marshal Luo Yunhai, instigated the death of Prince of Harvest and Deputy Yuan Yong was taking him back to execute him. Chapter 1144, Trend. Chapter 1144, Trend. Proofreader, Papatonks. As Yuan Yong's delegation was set to leave, thousands upon thousands of men had the tiny Tianyu imperial capital surrounded, ready for war. Yuan Yong snorted and glanced at unconcerned Luo Yunhai. Alliance leader, I told you that you have many friends. We haven't even started and they came, humph. Friends, step aside please. Luo Yunhai caught on and stepped forward with a bow and cupped hands. Thank you all for your intentions towards me and the Luo Alliance, but the central area and Western lands are on the path to war because of me. Giving my life for Western lands is my duty. I ask that everyone accepts. Luo Yunhai bowed once more. The huge crowd replied in kind, we respect Alliance leader Luo's righteousness. Dad. Luo Sifan rushed out of the ranks, going for her father. Dad, it's all my fault. I should take the blame. It isn't yours to carry. Luo Yunhai smiled. Sifan, it had nothing to do with you. They were after me. Why else were they so quick to accept me taking the blame? Now go back, don't let this hold you back. It'll all be fine. Dad. Luo Sifan sobbed. Long Jianshan and Xian Yinyang approached, looking forlorn with their hung heads. Luo Yunchang Yuer and Zhuge Changfeng wanted to get their clan head home, but they knew his mind was set and did not say anything. Only Yuer came next to Luo Yunhai, holding his hand. I'm going with you. Yuer. Ever since we held hands for the first time, we never separated. Yuner smiled as she turned to Luo Yunchang. Sister, I'll leave Sifan in your care. Luo Yunchang's eyes shook, looking long at the couple and gave a painful nod. Mom, you too. Luo Sifan cried harder, crushed from sorrow. Yuer rubbed her cheek with a smile. Once together, only death will do us part. Sifan, I won't ever leave your father. I'm sorry for not looking after you. Dad, Mom, Luo Sifan cried harder. Luo Yunchang and Yuer exchanged looks and the latter knocked her out to let Luo Yunchang take her. To their relief, Luo Yunchang took the girl and returned to the crowd. But Luo Yunchang was also struggling, closing her eyes shut as tears fell down her cheeks, her heart breaking with every step. I'll leave the Luo clan to you stewards. Luo Yunhai saluted Zhuge Changfeng and the others, leaving with Yuan Yong's escort. In their travels, any with even a bit of honor would see them go. They all knew the Luo clan was framed. That was why Luo Yunhai took the blame from his daughter to settle the tense situation. He had earned everyone's respect and admiration with his selfless act. Yuan Tsong and every sect leader, including the former enemy Qin Hao from Qin society came. All known figures came to see Luo Yunhai off, the greatest meeting in Western lands. It caused a great shock in even Yuan Yong. Luo Alliance has far greater clout in Western lands than I thought. The only one missing is Double Dragon Manor. From a dark corner, Zhuo Fan watched with a shaking head. Oh, those old coots, they won't even put up a token of effort? Humph, he is giving his life for Western lands, and by not showing even the slightest intention, they'll only earn the people's ire. You won't step in to save him? Luo Yunhai didn't die to Danqing Shen, but will now be executed in the Sword Star Empire capital. Murong Shui teased. Fan shook his head. You think Bailey Jingwei fanned the flames so hard and even brought an army just for the measly Luo alliance leader? Ah, a pawn is only a pawn in your hand. Once crushed, it's worthless. Yunhai won't die in the empire for he has plenty of worth. How could Bailey Jingwei do away with him before squeezing him for all his worth? You mean Bailey Jingwei is on the move? Yep, with Yunhai in his control he ought to have enough pieces to act. Only when he moves I can move too. Fan sighed. 100 years passed, yet the four lands leaders have not made an ounce of progress, Bailey Jingwei playing them like a fiddle. Murong Shui chuckled. Oh, is there another way of handling this matter? I find Luo Yunhai's sacrifice for the good of others is honorable. How would you handle it? Humph, giving your life for peace is honorable, sure, but it's not to settle things, it's because he had no choice. Bailey Jingwei forced him into a corner. Fan shook his head. Miss Morong, what you and Yunhai along with many value honor, it is in fact a great flaw. In the end people harm themselves. Why do you say that? Oh, I did say I was going to tell you a story. This is the perfect setting. Care to listen? Fan didn't wait for her answer, getting right to it. Once upon a time there were two warring kingdoms. They both had prisoners of war and sometimes exchanged them, while most of the time employed them as slaves. One kingdom decreed that any who brought back their fellow people would be rewarded. And so, many merchants traveled to the enemy kingdom and had no trouble buying some prisoners of war to bring back, receiving glory and wealth. But one man among them refused, more than happy to hand the wealth over to the officials. What do you think of him? Murong Shui frowned. Honorable and kind, not minding little remuneration, and a man of virtue. This is the righteousness you know, right? Yes. Murong Shui nodded. Fan laughed. The story has yet to end. When this same man you consider virtuous and honorable returned to his master, and gave his report filled with pride, how do you think the master reacted? If the master was just as upright, he would praise him. He was upright, true, garnering respect, but he did not shower the disciple in praise, instead giving him 2 slaps, ha ha ha. Why? It totally baffled Murong Shui. Fan snickered. That's the same reaction the disciple had. He helped people for neither profit nor fame, so where did he do wrong? His master replied that after the law was placed, people could earn a fortune for redeeming prisoners of war and fame along with respect of others. But what about those that refused the reward? It takes money to redeem prisoners of war, but when you ask for a reward, it may seem like your honor and decency is being questioned. Saving people from misery has nothing to do with honor or decency. And by not being rewarded for the hard work, who will still do it? Just like the man who redeemed without reward, thinking he was doing good. When in fact, when people see him as an example, who would go back to redeem prisoners? Losing money and the chance of fame is a lose-lose deal. This leads to no prisoners being bought back, living the rest of their lives in misery and torment. So then, is such an act righteous or evil? Stunned speechless, Murong Shui was lost for words. The righteousness you hold dear may not be in the people's benefit. The evil you believe may also not be in detriment to life. Whoosh. His hand shone and revealed white paper between the two. Fan grinned. Like this paper, I see my side as righteous and you see yours as righteous. But who is to say which is right, which is clearer? What? Murong Shui's heart sank. Fan laughed, dangling the paper. In the end, what we choose isn't right or wrong, but what we want to see or face. Once you see what others want to do, we just show it to them. Just like in the story, the goal is to redeem prisoners and save them from suffering. It's not to show off your moral values and pointless theatrics that are more of a hindrance than help, ha. But how are we to see what we want? By following the trend. Fan grinned. Human nature is selfish, you can't deny it. The heart has demons, something else you can't deny. This, however, does not mean such a person isn't capable of virtue. Just like that law, sending everyone to redeem prisoners, making them do good while also fulfilling their desire for fame and fortune. This is the trend, what everyone yearns for. It's totally natural for a good man to be selfish. The righteous one holds isn't to purge one's demons, but embracing them instead, for righteous and demonic may not be in such contradictions to begin with. Chapter 1145. Answered. Chapter 1145. Answer. Proofreader, Papatonks. Murong Shui gave him a long look and a nod. In other words, anything is allowed, be it good or evil, as long as it follows a good trend. Going by the upright and honorable Miss Murong, that is your wish. Fan smiled, just like another tale. A thief entered a rich house to steal, only to find the owner deathly wounded and called for help, leading to his capture. But at the trial he was released. The verdict read, "I would rather have thieves saving lives, than our world turned into a living hell, with none lending a hand." This is also a trend. Reason dictates that releasing a thief was against the law, but it gives birth to a trend, making life precious, far more precious than anything in the world. Like so, it would lead to the belief that even if one steals he would do not harm. Those who harmed would be punished severely while those who didn't will have lighter sentences. It's clearly his own evil machination, yet the trend made it honorable by saving lives as result. Thus, evil is evil, stealing is stealing, fighting is fighting, yet there would no longer be harmed people. Not for others but for oneself. Murong Shui nodded numbly, her heart changing as she discovered a new way of looking at things. Zhuofan chuckled, turning to the tide of people. Returning to Yunhai, he took the blame to secure Western land's safety, an act both honorable and admirable. But after that, Bailey Jingwei's plan bears fruit. His plan? Making a crack in Western lands. Zhuofan spoke. Yunhai's development was too fast this past century, gaining too much attention from the Double Dragon Manor, still holding the last word in the Western lands. This is similar to the Luo clan's beginning. I went for quick growth then because I believed to lord over the rest in quick succession. But the Luo alliance is going even faster while lacking the ability to overcome others. As it is, it only lacks some heavyweights and it would replace Double Dragon Manor. In short, it only needs time. Seizing the boss seat has to be done fast to minimize the danger. When I brought up the Luo clan I played hard and fast, keeping it in the shadows out of prying eyes. While the Luo alliance's intent had not just been found out, but decades in advance. While other factors played a role, Double Dragon Manor aren't open with their hostility, but it is there and growing. When Danqing Shin came and in the Prince matter Double Dragon Manor wanted to cut the Luo alliance down to size to crack it. A gap Bailey Jingwei is sure to use to slip right in. Murong Shui squinted. You mean Bailey Jingwei isn't starting a war with Western lands, but wants to drive a wedge? In war the four lands unite and there's also Devil Palace hiding in the central area. He'll never do it. Zhuofan continued, so he can only play in skirmishes, making a gap in Western lands, the hostility between the Luo alliance and Double Dragon Manor. This had yet to be nuanced until now, but today it has been cemented and would lead to a huge crack in Western lands' defenses. It's plain to see what influence the Luo alliance has in Western lands. Yunhai's fate is bound to raise discontent in the hearts of not just the Luo alliance, but many other factions in Western lands. Double Dragon Manor is the big leader of Western lands. He can lash out at the little guy all he wants so long as they are in their house. While outside he has to protect him, it's his job. It's public knowledge the Luo alliance suffered for nothing and now Yunhai would suffer a fate he could not escape by taking all the blame. In this time of peril Double Dragon Manor gave not a token of help, throwing the little guy to the wolves. What will the other little guys think? They'll be disappointed. The Luo alliance was threatening Double Dragon Manor, but at least play your role, easing the other little guys' hearts. That's why I wonder just how these old coots got to lead Western lands. Murong Shui's face twitched. The Exalted had towered over Western lands for thousands of years as men of virtue and honor, unlike the devious and twisted guy you are. Even if honorable, they have their own demons and desires, lust for fame and fortune. How could they just forget their duty just because they find Luo alliance an eyesore? True, the older the senior, the unsteadier the heart. Murong Shui sighed. Zhuofan nodded then shook his head, though this isn't half bad either. At the very least they talked it out with the other lands and didn't stone the Luo clan where it stood. This showed they knew good from bad and greed had yet to cloud their judgment, just a mere omission. That's already kindness from a leader. If it were me. What? The Luo clan would have long since been ashes. Zhuofan said. Murong Shui sighed. The Luo clan must be thankful that they have you as a steward and not an enemy. By the way, didn't you say you have a solution? What is it? Oh, mine is a little blunt, something Miss Murong is sure to not like. Just say it. It's just a thought and not truly enacted either. I'm also much more tolerable now. Oh, then my answer is. Zhuofan showed his evil smile, stirring the entire alliance to duke it out regardless of bloodshed. Who do they think I am? I've gone through thick and thin and they think they can chop me off like that? Bring it. Dong. Murong Shui blanked out, floored by Zhuofan's thuggish solution. That's your answer? It's like sending everyone to die for you. Haha, I told you that you wouldn't like it and you said you could take it. Zhuofan said calmly, Miss Murong, that was a joke. but my solution can handle it in one move, fighting all the way. Have you ever heard of the bold fear the resolute, and the resolute fear the reckless? Sometimes the scariest people around are the crazies. Nothing beats your crazy. Can the Luo Alliance's strength do it? There's no need to. They only have to look like it to scare the other. In fact, it's no different from Bailey Jingwei's tactic. Zhuo Fan grinned. Miss Morong, do you still remember our talk at the beginning? Trend? Yes, that. Zhuo Fan said, the Luo Alliance isn't even close to 1/10 of the central area's power, but a spark can trigger a great change. The Luo Alliance with a few allies can hold at least 1/3 of Western Land's power. How would Double Dragon Manor handle such force? Maybe ignore it and let the central area crush it, but then what will be left of Western Lands? Without the Luo Alliance, even with Western Lands being Double Dragon Manors, they would earn nothing but ire. Could the other 3 lands stand still while Western Lands goes through a bitter war? The loss of one land means the death of all. The others are sure to disregard any honor or fame then. This is a siege they have to hold out. So my solution is to hold Western Lands hostage, thus all 4 lands and by extension, everyone to wage bitter war with me for my own benefit. But won't this lead to a world war like before with heavy losses? Murong Shue's eyes shook. You're a lunatic, ignoring the consequences. Luo Yunhai is far more reasonable. Zhuo Fan said, he is indeed reliable, not wanting to let his family suffer. Haha, Miss Morong, you must have forgotten that central area is in no position to fight the 4 lands again. That's why Bailey Jingwei could only glare at my tactic without retaliation. There's your trend. The 5 lands would then have useless peace talks and the prince died for nothing. You're twisted. Murong Shui huffed, though a smile played on her lips. Zhuo Fan's plan may look insane, but the results go in the right direction. This must be where righteousness and demonic intersect. If you figured it out, can't the Luo clan as well? It may not be that simple. Lung Wuchang and Zhuge Changfeng aren't just for show, but they wouldn't mention it. Why not? They'd never propose something unless absolutely certain. Zhuo Fan sighed, a large deployment needs plenty of pawns. The Luo clan has too few. They don't know how big Devil Palace is and if they would work together, nor do they know Bailey Jingwei's limit, and if they themselves can sustain such a plan. With so many unknowns, the most important is in the end their apprehension, drawing Double Dragon Manor and other lands' leaders' fury that would burn the Luo clan to the ground at some point. This strategy would never come for those playing it safe and without resolve. The 3 are all excellent masterminds but not rulers, lacking in drive. Murong Shui nodded. Yeah, who else in this world would bet on victory using the entire population as a bargaining chip but a demon like you? In any case, it's good to be careful. They also lack the foundation to take such risks. Zhuo Fan took one last look at Luo Yunhai in the distance and then vanished. Murong Shui followed him. Chapter 1146, Last Hope. Chapter 1146, Last Hope. Proofreader, Papatonks. Luo Yunhai left with the crime of killing a central area prince on his shoulders, followed by the retreat of the 5 million army. The 4 lands breathed easier, rejoicing at having avoided another bitter war. Whatever Bailey Jingwei was thinking, they never wanted to wage war with him. Be it in strength, numbers and peak experts, they lost to the central area by a clear margin. In a high-level battle, last time they had Zhuo Fan leading them, so who was to match Bailey Jingwei's brains now? The leader's joy and celebration was Luo clan's sorrow. Everyone with Luo Yunchang and the numb Luo Sifan sat in their chairs with worry. The 3 minds sighed, the venerables lowered their heads, losing their boldness. Bam! Li Jingtian slammed the table and jumped to his feet. We're going to get clan head back, hide for a while and the news will just blow over. Bull, did you forget who holds him? Sword Star Empire. Have you forgotten the miserable defeat to Dan Qingxin? Save him? Watch out not to leave your life first, humph. Lung Wuchang glared back with a louder voice. Everyone started, for Sir Lung was always respectful to the venerables. It was clear that even he took the loss hard. Li Jingtian slammed the table again. What then? Are we going to let clan head go with them and have the empire execute him? I've been with clan head in wars for 100 years now and never so furious. Elder Li, wait. Zhuge Changfeng was quite calm, his eyes sharp. Bailey Jingwei is known as the best minister in the world. His schemes are deeper than anyone's. Nobody can rival his strategies either. Did he make such a convoluted plan just to take our clan head's life? No disrespect, but no matter how strong the Luo alliance is, it's far from worthy of his full attention. The play has yet to end. Just wait. The others nodded in silence. Luo Sifin lit up. Grandpa Zhuge, you mean Dad will live? You should. Clan head is a pawn that Bailey Jingwei now may use in some way. What's certain though, is that a pawn isn't to be discarded so soon. Zhuge Changfeng frowned and sighed, but Bailey Jingwei is treacherous and cunning. We may guess his next plan, but what of it? We don't even have the strength to hold negotiations. Steward Zhuo was the best at this. Lung Wuchang sighed, if Steward Zhuo was here, clan head would have never been taken. He'd have a way to make the central area suffer for it. The others all nodded their heads, recalling the good old days. Steward Zhuo. Luo Sifin let the words sink in. Is he the one Auntie loves? How could he save Dad? Pa. Patting her head just a bit harder, Luo Yunchang held a bitter smile, her eyes filled with emotion. Yes, the Luo clan would have no problems with him around. Sifin, you may not know, but Steward Zhuo is our first steward and the founder of the Luo Alliance. The first 7 elders all know Steward Zhuo's power back in the day, playing a pivotal role in what the Luo clan is today. Li Jingtian was grave. With clan head's righteous style, the people respect us. But Steward Zhuo commanded with an iron fist, shaking many of us just thinking about it. But more than anything, he has our admiration and reverence. Clan head is a righteous leader while Steward Zhuo was a tyrant. The Luo Alliance's foundation was laid by Steward Zhuo every step of the way. Without him, there wouldn't be a Luo Alliance. Luo Sifin gasped, really? Is he that great? I thought he was just Auntie's lover, and so you didn't talk about him to not make her sad. Now I see he was so important to the Luo Alliance, even more than the 7 elders. Not just important, the elders bowed at his coming. Yu Ming finally spoke, recalling his past. In essence, he was the Luo clan's clan head and its darkness. Darkness. Yes, the Luo clan couldn't have grown so much without a dark past. Yu Ming said, he is behind it all. He handled and fought everything without qualms or fear. After he left and clan head took the seat, our lives changed. The darkness remained, brought by those 2 old men, but not as heavy and cruel. From dark to light, we developed honor and loyalty, winning popularity. Hey Yu Ming, I'm the nicest grandpa to Sifin here. Don't just taint me. Yeah, like you haven't seen darkness either. Zhuge Changfeng and Lung Wuchang joined, glaring at him. Don't go spilling our secrets to the children. Yu Ming smirked, old yet still playing nice? Look at me, I've always said it openly, I never left the darkness. How could you leave the darkness when you're the head of the Shadow Corps in charge of intelligence? Dizzy. The oldie snickered. Yu Ming turned serious. One thing is certain, we must save clan head, not through honor, but the most vile and darkest trick. Old men, bring out all your dirty tricks from ages past and let's see if we can do it. Take what out? We'd have done it if we had any. Zhuge Changfeng rolled his eyes and sighed. We've been racking our brains and still couldn't find anything usable. It seems only Steward Zhuo could handle Bailey Jingwei. Luo Sifin lit up just then. Steward Zhuo can really save Mom and Dad. If there's anyone in the world that can match Bailey Jingwei and save them, then that's Steward Zhuo. Zhuge Changfeng said, Sifin, 100 years ago in the World War, the Central Area's army, directed by Bailey Jingwei, was invincible. With little choice, the 4 lands made Steward Zhuo their Grand Marshal, turning the whole thing around in 3 moves and crushing Bailey Jingwei's plan. In other words, if there's one that can foil the best minister's plans, that would be the best steward beneath heaven. Luo Sifin jumped out of Luo Yunchang's embrace in excitement, going to Zhuge Changfeng. Grandpa Zhuge, tell me, where is Steward Zhuo now? I'd have gone to find him if I knew. Zhuge Changfeng sighed, we only know that Steward Zhuo is dead, swallowed by the sea demon 100 years ago. It's unclear if it's true or not, but 100 years came and went without anyone seeing him. Maybe dead? Luo Sifin's hope was dashed as soon as it sprouted. Having just heard of someone that could bring back her parents, the next moment she found out he was dead. What about her parents? Luo Sifin turned forlorn, tears welling in her eyes. A chuckle reached their ears, of course it's fake. Steward Zhuo is alive and well. What? All eyes turned to a girl grinning from ear to ear. Luo Sifin cheered, Auntie Schwanger. Sifin, don't worry, there's hope for your parents yet. She hugged the girl and chuckled. Zhuge Changfeng jumped to his feet, as did the rest of them, cupping their hands. Holy maiden! Schwanger, weren't you cultivating in your homeland? You're back so soon? Luo Yunchang rejoiced and welcomed her with joy. Yun Shuang's eyes shone in a mysterious azure light. Yes, I had been training and saw the demise of Alliance leader Luo, but then his saving. So I rushed out to ask about it, only to learn that Dan Qingxin was after him. It was certain death, yet abetted in the end. Among all the people I know, there's only one man that can change fate, and he did it many times to release clan head Luo of his death. Who do you think it can be? Zhuo Fan. Everyone cried out, then Luo Yunchang turned dully at Luo Sifan. Sifan, didn't you say you scared Dan Qingxin away? Just what exactly happened? Did you see him? Luo Sifan's mind was hit with immense shock. He's the one auntie and everyone calls Steward Zhuo? Blind uncle is the first steward of the Luo Alliance? Chapter 1147, Inquired. Chapter 1147, Inquire. Proofreader, Papatonks. What? No way. That blind swordsmith is the first steward and founder of the Luo Alliance. In a gloomy forest, a dozen people walked through the bushes. Long Jianshan cried out once Luo Sifan explained, staring with wide and dull eyes, "It's obvious now why he's so familiar to our alliance and knows everyone, not afraid of me, being the grandson of the original elders. He is above even them." Xian Yinyang rolled his eyes, huffing, "Please, he didn't need to be the most important in the Luo Alliance to disregard your origins, not with his strength." "Oh, you're right." Recalling how Zhuo Fan repelled the dragon-cleaving sword king, Long Jinshan's heart sank. Such a peak expert would hardly care about anyone. He must have left since the Luo Alliance was so tiny for him. The Luo Alliance is filled with experts but none to the level of sword kings. Being second best in Western lands is hardly enough to impress this god. Long Jinshan sighed, "He stands at the very top and can defeat the entire alliance by himself, so why care about us? Now we're asking for his help and we're yet to know if he'll accept. Why else then did he hide his true identity? He must not want to be on our side." Pa. A quick palm struck him over the head. Long Jianshan shrank, looking back to see Luo Yunchang staring daggers at him. "Brat, what nonsense are you spouting? You know nothing of our founding steward. When we were at our weakest, he did everything for us without the thought of casting us aside. Now it's no different." Luo Yunchang spat as she set him straight. "You think all are like you, selfish and cocky? I'll have to pay your grandfather a visit to get you in shape. Your dad's upright act was a bad influence." "Auntie Luo, I was just saying. Why so angry?" Long Jinshan's face fell. "Dad may be sloppy, but I follow grandfather's example and uphold our clan's honor." "Ah." Luo Yunchang laughed and the others smiled. Luo Sifan glared at him, whispering, "Long Jinshan, stop back talking. Steward Zhuo is very important to Auntie. Try to complain about him some more and see how she'll tear you to pieces." "That much?" Long Jianshan shivered, sneaking a peek at Luo Yunchang's icy look. "Auntie Luo, the blind swordsmith can't be your man, right? Hee. What are you looking at?" Feeling his nasty eyes on her, Luo Yunchang could read his mind like an open book, snapping at him. Then she shouted in annoyance, "Sifan, are we there yet? Where is that punk?" Luo Sifan bobbed her head, not wanting to earn the ire of a woman in menopause, pointing, "Just up ahead. There's a sword shack where the blind uncle lives." "I finally found you, rotten bastard." Luo Yunchang was furious, though the light in her eyes danced with joy. Ignoring Luo Sifan, she rushed forth only to see the place desolate. The rest smiled. "Young miss can't wait after 100 years, ha." The others were just as eager, hurrying over. But as they neared the shack, they found the bamboo place empty, with Luo Yunchang coming out devastated. "Sifan, where is he?" Auntie." Luo Sifan glanced at the empty place and rushed inside to check better. "This isn't right. We've been here twice now and it was filled with spiritual swords. Where have they all gone?" Li Jingtian and the 5 venerables offered, "Yeah, when we woke up from our wounds, there were hung spiritual swords everywhere. How come there isn't any now?" "Humph, isn't it obvious? That bastard scampered off. Does he hate seeing me so much?" Luo Yunchang gave a forlorn chuckle, on the verge of crying. She had been worried sick over him for 100 years, every second of it. Now that she got a clue, what greeted her was a cold and empty place. Luo Yunchang felt her heart breaking. It was no longer a matter of finding Zhuo Fan, but him avoiding them like the plague. No one could find him, not while he was running away. Luo Yunchang slumped on the ground, hugging her knees as she sobbed, "Did I do anything wrong? Does he hate seeing me so much?" "Auntie." Luo Sifin had never seen her so devastated and heartbroken. An old hand touched her shoulder in comfort. Zhuge Changfeng sighed, turning grave. Miss Sifin, what happened then? Are you certain the blind swordsmith is Steward Zhua? And no. Luo Sifin frowned. The three were talking while we shooed away. We couldn't hear them and didn't know who he was. Zhuge Changfeng took a deep breath, calculating as he spoke to Li Jingtian. Those three are the strongest while the kids are just in the radiant stage. If they didn't want the kids to hear, then not a word would reach them, not with how large the gap in strength was. Yeah, why would Steward Zhua just let some children eavesdrop on him when he avoids us? Oh. Luo Yunchang only cried harder. That punk, he doesn't want to see me. The others were stumped on how to console the crying miss. But this was not the time for comfort, it was to find Zhua Fan to save their head. Whoosh. Someone flashed before them and bowed, presenting a jade slip to Zhuge Changfeng. Steward Zhuge, there's news from the border. The Sword Star Empire sent a jade slip for Steward Zhuge. A jade slip from the Empire? Zhuge Changfeng squinted. Bailey Jingwei is ready to use clan head. In that case, he must have wanted to speak terms with us. Yes. Zhuge Changfeng agreed with Lung Wuchang. This might be clan head's lifeline. Let's see what trick he's up to. Zhuge Changfeng pondered, then turned to the crying Luo Yunchang. Young Miss, Bailey Jingwei wants to talk with us and negotiate clan head's fate. Luo Yunchang raised her red eyes. You mean Bailey Jingwei wants to talk about conditions? Yunhai can return? Yes, we'll see what he wants. It might not be good, but hope still remains. Luo Yunchang wiped her tears and stood up, her tone harsh. Steward Zhuge, you three will go with me. Elder Qiu and Sister Shui will follow as well. The rest are to stay here and wait for the punk to come back. Make sure to keep him here. Auntie, will he come? There's nothing here. Humph, regardless of what he does, you are to not leave the place out of your sight. Luo Yunchang shouted, making Luo Sifin flinch in fright. Hell hath no fury as a woman scorned. She wants to tear Steward Zhua apart. Li Jingtian frowned. Young miss, it'll be dangerous going with so few. We must go regardless. Yunhai's life is at stake. At least take more men, Li Jingtian proposed. Zhuge Changfeng denied. Elderly, it'll be fine. Sword Star Empire is filled with experts. If he wanted to hurt us, our numbers wouldn't matter. He has no such intention. Even surrounded, it won't matter. The issue is that we must step into this trap. Li Jingtian sighed and nodded. Take care. Since it's just talk, Bailey Jingwei won't touch us. There's thousands of ways to grab us, not needing his direct attention. We'll be fine. Zhuge Changfeng smiled, cupping his hands at Li Jingtian. Luo Yunchang took one last long look at the shack and left with a ruthless heart. Just you wait, devil, I'll chase you to the ends of the world if I have to. Chapter 1148, Talk. Chapter 1148, Talk. Proofreader, Papatonks. Luo Yunchang's group left soon after, leaving Luo Sifin sighing and returning to the shack. Their task was to wait for Zhua Fan's return and ask the founding steward's assistance, though the odds were slim at best. Just as they turned around, inside the shack appeared a table and a youth with covered eyes sitting in a chair next to it, enjoying tea as he talked like they weren't there. Luo Sifin stuttered, "Be blind, uncle." "A Steward Zhua." Li Jingtian widened, his eyes turning red as he rushed in. A century had passed since the founding steward seized power. Now this man they all admired was back. The three venerables gushed with excitement. Zhua Fan raised his head, smiling. "Elderly people, how have you been the past century?" Steward Zhua. The highest venerable in the Luo alliance slumped to his feet and cupped his hands, his staunch expression speaking volumes words couldn't hold. There was also the undying loyalty shining in his eyes, stronger than he showed towards Luo Yunhai. Having never seen the venerable so overwhelmed, the kids were now certain. He was the one all elders in the Luo alliance called Steward Zhua. It was obvious now just how much effect he had over it, bigger than her father ever had. It was seen from how the three venerables behaved that they did not plead for the clan head, but showed their heartfelt respect by kneeling, like he was the alliance leader instead. But how can this be? A steward from a century ago may be tough, but to think he can overshadow the clan head? Isn't this undermining the Lord and staging a power play? Yet even with all that power he still left, leaving all that clout behind. Luo Sifin felt she understood why her father and auntie trusted him so and didn't forget him after all these years. Long Jianshan and Xian Yinyang were shell-shocked. They knew of the Venerable's quirky characters and pride. They'd never shown such respect unless it was someone stronger than them. It was jarring to see the stubborn old coots so sincere. They aren't like this even around the Alliance leader. The two kids found Zhuo Fan even more of a mystery. He looked like a fancy scholar now and enjoyed tea with no air of savagery. Luo Sifan turned her head, but Zhuo Fan stopped her from doing anything. Girl, where are you going? I'm going after Auntie. They wanted to meet you and should be close still. I'll call them back. Luo Sifan said quickly. Zhuo Fan shook his head. No need. I don't want to see them, that's why I was hiding. Why? For I'm waiting for the plan to start. Zhuo Fan sighed. I never wanted to drag you into this, but Bailey Jingwei chose you and I have no choice but to make use of you. Please don't take it to heart letting you suffer a bit. Suffer. Luo Sifan's lip shook, running to his side. Blind you dash. Uncle Zhuo, it doesn't matter, but Dad and Mom are about to be killed. Please save them. Worry not, they'll all be fine. You just need to endure a bit longer and take a bit more suffering. Patting her head, Zhuo Fan smiled and walked out of the shack, reaching the three kneeling venerables. When young Miss returns, tell everyone that the Luo Alliance is just like the Luo clan in the past when facing the Sword Star Empire. To win, you must throw away the unnecessary and return to the darkness. Remember, a house divided against itself cannot stand, and just ignore everything else. Zhuo Fan was gone. Everyone cried, Steward Zhuo. No amount of shouting brought him back. They were looking perplexed. Steward Zhuo had clearly shown himself to give him advice, but what could it mean? A week later, at the border between the Empire and Western lands, Luo Yunchang and her group walked through a thick forest and towards a worn house. A man in black was waiting for them in a bow. The honored Luo Alliance guests. Yes. Luo Yunchang spoke coldly. I am Luo Yunchang, the young miss of Luo Alliance. I am now handling its affairs. You honor us, young Miss Luo. Clan head has been waiting a long time. Bowing again, the man opened the door and gestured. Luo Yunchang took bold steps inside with the rest following suit. The door shut, plunging the room in darkness. This did not work to unnerve the group, keeping calm. Clap. With a few sharp claps, fire sprung to life, revealing a smiling youth in lavish clothes, patronizing. I've heard of the Luo clan that prides itself in its military heritage. Now that I see you in person, I see it rings true. For even their dame to have such mighty flair around her. I am in awe. Your Sword Star Empire Prime Minister, Bailey Jingwei, at your service, young Miss Luo. The man gave a bow and gestured to a chair. Please? Luo Yunchang sat while the others stood behind her. Bailey Jingwei sat as well, men in black at his back releasing mighty auras. Prime Minister, what words of wisdom do you have for me? I could never teach someone like you, only finding my duty in notifying young Miss about one small detail. Luo Yunchang got straight to the point, while Bailey Jingwei smiled, giving her a fine piece of paper. Accused of killing a valuable official from the central area, your brother is held for execution by heavenly punishment a month from now in the imperial capital as a warning to others. Young Miss, as the only relative of Alliance leader Luo, remember to take back his body, ha ha ha. Luo Yunchang glared hard, fumming. What are you planning? Nothing, just upholding the law. I'm only doing my duty, ha. Bailey Jingwei sipped his tea with a cruel smile. Luo Yunchang darkened, with Zhuge Changfeng speaking. Prime Minister, let's be frank here. You've been employing subtle and convoluted tricks, and it can't be just to take the lives of our clan head. Steward Zhuge, I take it. It's an honor. Bailey Jingwei chuckled. They say the Luo Alliance's three great minds are beyond margin. One for diplomacy, one for internal affairs, and one for the military. Their names shook the western lands. I've long wanted to meet you, especially Steward Zhuge, a former prime minister such as I. It's truly a blessing to meet at last. I'm hardly of such worth. Prime Minister Bailey is the one that shakes the world. No, there's no need for modesty. With that guy having taken power and foiled my plans, I still hold him in great esteem. Bailey Jingwei squinted, showing his vile nature. With all three of you here, allow me to see your skills. I signed the execution order and it's been made public throughout the lands. There's no taking it back now. So, how do you plan on saving your clan head? Haha, since it's a diplomatic matter, we'll have Sir Zhuge go first. The three exchanged glances, growing solemn. Bailey Jingwei was taunting them. Zhuge Changfeng smirked and said, Prime Minister, What would you mean by that? Clan head hardly has any worth for your nation. Must he be put down? Please feel free to come forth with any request you may have, Prime Minister. Bribery? Trying to gauge my limits? No, our offer is sincere, only wanting clan head's survival. But I want his head. Bailey Jingwei's eyes shone. Everyone clenched fists, glaring at him with a puzzled look. Didn't this guy ask us here to state terms? What's he playing at? Chapter 1149, You Have No Right. Chapter 1149, You Have No Right. Proofreader, Papatonks. Zhuge Changfeng smiled. Hilarious, Prime Minister, you would take the head of a prince for the head of our clan head? Isn't that a bit cheap? It's unlike your glorious style from before. Glorious? Haha, since you know of it, then you understand that after suffering defeat because of it, I'll never take such a stance again. Bailey Jingwei mocked. I'm now very petty, in fact, down to the last spirit stone. The prince is nothing, no better than a pig having just above average heritage. The rest is wastage. While Alliance leader Luo is in the prime of his youth, his order respected, his word revered. I find giving a pig over for a future leader the deal of a lifetime. Zhuge Changfeng hesitated and Leng Wuchang stepped in. Prime Minister, why have you called us here? Isn't it to negotiate? Sir Leng, yes. Bailey Jingwei chuckled. I heard Sir Leng's unwanted contriver title, eyes piercing into the hearts of the enemy. For you to say I called you here for negotiations, then what would my terms be? If you can say what's on my mind, I might just go with it after all, ha. Leng Wuchang frowned then smiled. How could I fathom Sir Bailey's machinations? Sir can go ahead and say it and let us weigh them. Sir Leng sure is sneaky, probing me like Sir Zhuge did. But I won't fall for it, Bailey Jingwei snickered. If Sir Leng can't guess, then the next one. If none of you three's answers please me, then I've only called you here to inform you of when to pick up the body. Why? Leng Wuchang's face darkened. Bailey Jingwei was toying with them, but they could not just leave, not when clan head's safety was at stake, and they had to humor him. Sir Bailey, you can't mean for the entire Luo alliance to give itself to the Empire. They all grimaced. It was the same as betraying Western lands and leaving it without hope at survival. Oh, how interesting. Bailey Jingwei's eyes lit up and nodded, showing a queer smile at the grave Leng Wuchang. Sir Leng, you said it. So tell me, is it high or low? Leng Wuchang frowned. He guessed by now Bailey Jingwei's aim at getting Luo Yunhai was to make the rest follow his whims, but by doing that, that would mean ruining all the work they had in building Luo alliance in the Western lands over the last century. Honor and righteousness would vanish into thin air, earning everyone's scorn as the Luo alliance moved to the central area. And with the power established in the central area already and them having no sword king, they would be marginalized, hardly even able to make ends meet. It was no different than setting yourself up. Saving clan head was important, but over such a steep condition, they needed to reconsider the rest of the people in the alliance. Bailey Jingwei chuckled at their worries. Sir Leng, relax, there's no way the ruination of the clan is worth Luo Yunhai's life. Moreover, the central area has run out of space, large as it is. Settling the Luo alliance would only bring more trouble than help, ha. Oh. Everyone eased a breath in relief. Had Bailey Jingwei mentioned this term, even Luo Yunchang would have had to abandon Luo Yunhai to keep the family name. Next. Bailey Jingwei smiled. Sir Yu Ming is a service man of the Luo clan. Try guessing my intention. Say it right and the deal is sealed. Yu Ming pondered. Prime Minister wants Western lands, but holding alliance leader hostage can't be to have the alliance take such responsibility. Maybe you intend to have our borders slackened? Go on. Bailey Jingwei lit up in excitement. Yu Ming continued after a pause. Luo alliance has been in charge of defending Western lands for years. Prime Minister Bailey wants Western lands, thus must control its defenses. All right, I'll release the defense plans and the array's weakness to the Prime Minister, making it easy to strike. But this deal is a one-time thing. Marvelous. Bailey Jingwei shouted and slapped the table. Luo Yunchang said, that's your term? No. Bailey Jingwei shouted with the same joy, eyeing the great minds with scorn. Just how on earth did you even contend with Zhuofan is beyond me? Can't you see what I want? Like I said, the order is given and all lands know it now. Changing it halfway will question my authority. You have to give me a very good reason to release him for that. Then what do you want? For the Luo alliance to cooperate in helping take Western lands? Bailey Jingwei spoke solemnly. What? They all gasped. Work together to take Western lands? That's worse than death. That's a revolt, betrayal, regicide. Forget about the Luo Alliance's righteous name, it could never raise its hands against its old friends in the Western lands. Luo Yunchang's face twitched. No, absolutely not. Yunhai would never agree to this. He values honor above all else. Learning the Luo alliance he nurtured turned into a shiv to stab his friends would break him. Young Miss Luo, you're wrong. In this world, everyone is at each other's throat. By not killing them, they'll kill you. You can't accept striking them, but they would not hesitate to do it. Bailey Jingwei smiled and worked his charm. Remember how Alliance leader Luo ended up in my custody? Discarded, cast out by the whole of Western lands. You're too strong and the leaders disdain you, wanting you out of the picture, missing only an excuse. Sure, I used a cheap trick, but if Western lands had protected you, I'd have never gotten Alliance leader Luo. In other words, casting blame was just the spar, for the ones who truly want the end of the Luo Alliance are those bastards in Western lands. Yet you're still thinking it over? Luo Yunchang wavered. Bailey Jingwei straightened and mocked. Alliance leader Luo is now with me and everyone knows I have you in my palm. You really think Western lands will trust you? Those old bastards know better than anyone just how dangerous any faction whose leader is taken hostage is. But with your clout, they can't touch you yet, though they will wear you down, turning you into a shell of your former selves. By then you'll be nothing but dead meat. We may lose our power, but we can't lose our conscience. Do you even have it? Do they have it? Bailey Jingwei sneered. I still have Alliance leader Luo with me, set to die a month from now. And when I up and postpone it, what do you think the Western lands will think? They'll believe we struck a deal and would see you as spies. You could say anything you want at that point, for your old friends would still point their blades at you, the same ones you hate to kill now. Your honor would be stained all the same, turned into wretched traitors. All shuddered, looking at Bailey Jingwei with hatred and fear. How cruel. Bailey Jingwei chuckled at their obvious thoughts. Don't look at me like that, I'm doing you a favor here. You just have to help me take Western lands and you'll be its rulers. It's only natural. Alliance leader Luo doesn't need to die and I'll declare it to be an elaborate scheme. We will work together to unify the lands and reach the top. You'll then be made high officials and not traitors, entering written in history books as winners. In short, your betrayal will be washed away. Everyone had long faces. Luo Yunchang shook all over. Prime Minister Bailey, would you allow our young miss time to consider a reply? Zhuge Changfeng proposed, left with no other choice. Bailey Jingwei nodded. Sure, I'll be here 10 more days awaiting the good news. Though better work fast, for your alliance leader is a goner in a month. We know. Zhuge Changfeng nodded and helped Luo Yunchang out. Bailey Jingwei had one last thing to say though. Masterminds, did you really fight with Zhuo Fan? They flinched. You never had the right. Bailey Jingwei mocked. The three darkened, opting to leave in oppressive silence. Chapter 1150, All Sets. Chapter 1150, All Set. Proofreader, Papatonks. Blasted Bailey Jingwei, he was actually testing us all this time. Curses. He was looking for our own limit, while we didn't find anything about his. A real piece of work. The clear moon shone down on the gloomy trees as a group walked hastily among them, with Lung Wuchang and Yu Ming the only ones complaining. Zhuge Changfeng sighed in the end. All right, neither of you could figure him out or how big his game is. He now has Alliance leader with him and plans on squeezing him for all his worth. Preying on our affection for Alliance leader and the fate of the entire Luo Alliance. He's right, we've fallen in disfavor with the leaders. If he keeps using Alliance leader for his own agenda, then it's only a matter of time before our own people turn on us and give us a miserable death. Yeah, living is for fame and fortune. To die for loyalty and honor isn't a bad fate either. But to die with scorn, who would be willing to go down like that? Maybe he's right that our only hope is the Empire. He took our clan head and blocked all other options. Bailey Jingwei is too damn good. Lung Wuchang sighed but then turned to the worried Luo Yunchang. Young miss must be hurting the most. It all falls on her shoulders whether to live or die. Maybe she decided to give up her brother, plunging the clan in misery and filling the alliance with shame. Even a man couldn't take such pressure, let alone a woman. Everyone frowned harder. They took 3 days to return back to the shack. Luo Sifan rushed at their sight, saying, Auntie, Grandpa Zhuge, Steward Zhuo came. What? Luo Yunchang cried out, a glimmer of hope piercing through the dark despair. She burst into the shack, searching all over for the one she longed for years and years. She was under too much weight and needed someone to shoulder it. But any search proved to be in vain, finding no trace of him after dozens of searches. Li Jingtian came with a bow. "Young miss, there's no point." Steward Zhuo left moments after he came. Left? Luo Yunchang's hope plunged into the darkest abyss of sorrow. Why would he leave? Doesn't he know how much I need him to help me with this problem? How could he just leave? Luo Yunchang burst out into tears. Zhuge Changfeng came next to elderly and spoke. "Did he say something?" "He left a message for you." "What message?" "It's..." Li Jingtian recounted Zhuo Fan's words. The three minds frowned and thought, think of the Luo alliance as the past Luo clan? Abandon everything for the darkness? Steward Zhuo means. "Young miss, how was the past Luo clan? We only came later and don't know." Zhuge Changfeng asked. Sniffing, Luo Yunchang wiped her tears and spat. "How else could it be? In ruins and hunted. We were at risk of starving to death." What did Steward Zhuo do? He had the skill to find allies everywhere, trying every trick to get them. Sometimes he even got the leaders of Veiled Dragon Pavilion so confused that they agreed to bring us resources. I warned him that this isn't right since they're allies. But how could they be allies when they were far stronger? They weren't respectful towards the Luo clan but towards Zhuo Fan. His guile was endless, scamming his own allies, saying all the same that he'd pay back. Scamming allies, I see. The three minds nodded, grinning from ear to ear. Zhuge Changfeng said, "Steward Zhuo saw through Bailey Jingwei's plan and told us we can't handle anything, so might as well give up trying. Return to darkness to find survival, throwing away even honor and righteousness while only thinking of ourselves. As a house divided goes against our survival, raising unrest among us, in Western lands, and in so doing the same thing that Bailey Jingwei does." Luo Yunchang asked, "That villain is saying to agree with Bailey Jingwei and strike Western lands together? Since when is he on the enemy's side and asking us to surrender?" Haha, Steward Zhuo is prideful and arrogant. Bailey Jingwei lost once, so it's easy to make him lose again. Bailey Jingwei won't soon forget Steward Zhuo either. These two mortal enemies would never join hands. Steward Zhuo must have a different plan in store. There's no harm in following his wishes, we'll hardly lose anything. Zhuge Changfeng sighed. Bailey Jingwei gave us a single way out, a suicidal one, while Steward Zhuo has his plan with it. Sniffing twice, Luo Yunchang's eyes burned with anger, but Zhuo Fan's answer soothed her worried heart, bringing tranquility. "Fine, tell Bailey Jingwei we accept. Siphon, don't worry, since that wretched man has a plan, your parents will be fine." Luo Siphon blinked, clueless at her aunt and her blind faith in the man, inspiring trust in her as well. "Blind uncle, my parents' lives are in your hands." In an icy wasteland, a lone figure trekked through the heavy snow, the blistering winds flinging the ends of the eye cover. Whoosh! A blue figure pooped in front, cupping his hands. "Big brother, you're here at last. I've missed you to death." "Changqing, it's been a while." Zhuo Fan raised his head as he faced the best disciple in northern lands, Ouyang Changqing. It was a close-guarded secret that this northern lands expert was actually one of Devil Palace's 3 emissaries, Moon Devil Emissary. Due to Moon Devil Emissary's position and fame he had from his real identity, Devil Palace didn't need to infiltrate the northern lands over the past century, already having it under its thumb. Zhuo Fan patted his shoulder. "Activate the barrier. I'm going to North Sea." "You're entering seclusion again, big brother?" "Yeah, Bailey Jingwei has made his move and I need to seize the moment." Zhuo Fan said, "I'll be aiming for Genesis stage this time. If I don't come out in time, besides following the plan, I ask that you look after the Luo clan as well." Ouyang Changqing nodded, showing a confident smile. "Don't worry, big brother, I'll handle it." "But weren't you against getting them involved? Devil Palace never made contact with them all these years. Why would they?" "I've been waiting for Bailey Jingwei to pick his pawn from Western lands, but it turns out to be Luo clan. Since there's no way out, I can only let them trudge deeper and just watch over them a little, that's all." Zhuo Fan sighed in defeat. Ouyang Changqing nodded, making a sign to open the barrier, and the two stepped into Sea Bright Sect. Behind it was where Zhuo Fan was going to enter seclusion, in the North Sea, housing the Sea Demon. Nothing could disturb his training with the Sea Demon keeping watch. Perhaps none in even the sacred domain could enjoy such lavish treatment. In the Thunder Pavilion of the Imperial Capital, Bailey Jingwei was grave as he walked into the range of those heavy rumbling, looking at the streaking lightning with sharp eyes. Patriarch, I'm back. Bailey Jingwei smiled. My mistake had caused you such heavy wounds, cutting your boundless life to a mere 100 years. For that, I felt guilt crushing me. We didn't know what to do while you entered Thunder Pavilion in seclusion. It has been 100 years now. In your state, doing anything could be life-threatening, but we know no one can change your mind. But having not come out this past 100 years, rumors go around saying you've passed away, inciting further unrest within the Empire. Rest assured that with me here the Empire will be safe no matter what. All is set as I begin cleaning up all the dregs. Patriarch, no matter if you're still healthy or gone, watch as Sword Star Empire unites the lands and roots out all traitors. Bailey Jingwei gave one last bow to the rumbling lightning, shouting his last words and leaving with resolve in his eyes. A boom echoed out, shaking the world as Thunder Pavilion crumbled. A huge thunderstorm exploded in the heavens above, with all the lightning gathering soon after into a 300-meter thunder sword, unleashing deadly power. Bailey Jingwei shuddered, looking back. Patriarch, you're out. Chapter 1151. Coordination. Chapter 1151. Coordination. Proofreader, Papatonks. Sect Leader Ling, right this way. In the boundless snowfall, a dozen people traced the sky. A middle-aged man with a split mustache held a smile as he sucked up to the elder next to him. This time we caught a Central Area spy. Bailey Jingwei must be itching to crush us. The elder frowned. I still thought it would be one of his envoys to settle things. Didn't he go after Devil Palace so far? Why can't he just lay his ambition to rest for our lands and instead send more spies? Sect Leader Boo, it's thanks to your cautious nature and not letting your guard down against Central Area all these years. Putting you in charge of Northern Lands defenses was the right choice. See Bright Sect Leader Ling, you're too much. It's the Sun Sea Sect's responsibility, haha. The middle-aged man laughed in pride. Due to Bu Xingyun saving the Four Lands leaders at the right time, he had gained Ling Yuntian's trust the past century. Northern Lands' 5 sects, besides Sea Bright Sect's domain, were all left to the Sun Sea Sect's supervision, which meant more than half of the land's matters. Adding to that the fact they were close to the border, he also dealt with its defenses. Sun Sea Sect's track record was impeccable the last century with no slip-up, making Ling Yuntian trust him even more. Bu Xingyun had now run to Ling Yuntian to apologize for finding a Central Area spy infiltrated in their home, taking full blame for the lax watch. The spy was also under interrogation and that he held important information about Bailey Jingwei's actions. Ling Yuntian requested to examine it at once. Bu Xingyun took Sect Leader Ling to this frozen wasteland, where he found the spy to look for more clues. But what welcomed them was a mass of white in every direction, yet no spy. Ling Yuntian frowned. Sect Leader Bu, where is he? Yes, where? Bu Xingyun looked around skeptically. Ha, Sect Leader Ling, isn't the spy you're after right here? Whoosh. 3 powerful men jumped in front of them. One wore a sinister smile as he glared, another held a wine gourd with a red nose taking a sip now and then, and the last was a cold youth with an empty sleeve, drifting in the winds. Bailey Yuyun? What are you doing here? Ling Yuntian gasped. Why hasn't there been any word that a Sword King crossed the Northern Lands border? Bam. Ling Yuntian was sent flying as he left a trail of blood. Behind him, Bu Xingyun's voice dripped with malice. That's because I let them in without being seen, ha. You? Unable to believe the betrayal, Ling Yuntian gnashed his teeth, choking on words. Bu Xingyun cackled. Ling Yuntian, I never liked you since a century ago. Why must the Sea Bright sect be the leader of the 5 sects? Why should we listen to you? I'm a sect leader just as well, so why should we scrape like dogs catering to your whims? Humph, weren't you so eager to know the spy among the 4 lands? Well, you guessed it, me. You? Precisely, a shame you old coot thought yourself so clever, letting me handle the search. I just had to find a scapegoat and that's that. How can a dotard be worthy of leading Northern Lands? Aha, Bu Xingyun mocked. Ling Yuntian was outraged. Why save us all those years ago? You sure are delusional. You think I wanted to? Bu Xingyun scoffed. If it weren't to save the Sword Star Empire's backbone, the Patriarch, to give the order and stop the assault, I wouldn't even have tried looking for you. Here's the cold, hard truth, there was no other way. Prime Minister Bailey needed you alive to hold talks. Ling Yunqian's face twitched, his heart a mess. It was all Bailey Jingwei. But the old men were too blind to see the truth, even treating this vile beast as their savior, handing Northern Lands safety to him. Ling Yunqian's heart was torn in regret. Did Bali Jingwei also plan for Bali Yuyu to destroy your sect? Just so you could slip into the Sea Bright sect? Well. Bu Xingyun's face shook, blushing from being put on the spot. Bailey Yuyun laughed. Haha, sect leader Ling, you're wrong there. Only recently we acted and learned of sect leader Bu, with Prime Minister Bailey the only one aware of his identity all this time. That was a total misunderstanding, the Sun Sea sect taunting Yuyu and ended up being put in their place. Even though the Sun Sea sect was fine, sect leader Bu entering the Sea Bright sect is only logical. What's the use of such a huge sacrifice? His mission then was to break your barrier, but Zhuo Fan made a mess of things. Ling Yuntian understood while Bu Xingyun was ashamed, feeling overwhelmed each time he recalled that rotten luck of the past, so he switched topics, not wanting to face it. Sword King's Ling Yuntian is caught now. Should we begin the Prime Minister's plan? Right, Prime Minister aims for speed, a swift victory. Bailey Yuyun nodded. With Ling Yuntian hostage, the Sea Bright sect is headless. We will straight up raid Sea Bright sect and finish it. When it falls in our hands, the other sects are nothing by themselves. Don't forget the guardian experts in the Sea Bright sect, the Snow Peak 4 elders. And Ouyang Chongqing as well. We know, that's why there's 3 Sword Kings handling this operation. Bailey Yuyun glanced at the one-armed youth. Jingtian, you beat Ouyang Chongqing in the last war. You might have lost an arm, but he shouldn't pose a problem. I and Wine Sword Immortal will handle the elders. We'll help you once we finish them off. Bailey Jingtian shook his head. No need, I can handle it. That settles it. Sect leader Bu, get your men ready to welcome our army. Work with them to take down northern lands. Then you'll be its king. Right? Bu Xingyun's eyes shone as he cupped his hand. Fooling Sea Bright sect disciples into opening the barrier, the Sword Kings brought their central area's elites inside and started killing. The howls and cries rang across the sky as everyone ran for their lives. The Sword Kings searched and searched, yet there was no sign of Ouyang Chongqing nor the 4 elders. They were just gone. In the eastern lands Shangguan clan, savages stormed it, led by a woman and Sword King Feiyun by her side. Seeing the ghost town, Shangguan Feiyun demanded, Monyang, where is everyone? Why is it empty? I'd also like to know. The woman gnashed her teeth. My son's killers have slipped away. Did you get too eager and tip their scouts off on your coming here? Shangguan Yulin rolled his eyes, then glared. Shangguan Monyang, you think I'm luckless as Shangguan Yulin, full of disappointment? I led my men for a raid. They could listen to the wind and still couldn't scatter so fast. What of you then? Did you double-cross us? I heard Yenner has been close to you for the past century and you are quite trusting of her. She just feels guilty for my loss. Shangguan Monyang raged, they killed my son. I'll have revenge even if I have to search the farthest depths. Second cousin, you have to help me. Annoyed, Shangguan Feiyun waved her off with scorn. Don't let what you see blind you. This is a national matter. Stop thinking only of revenge. We need to take eastern lands. Guard, send word that the Shangguan clan is empty, and that the eastern lands are headless so the army can march in. We'll coordinate and we can take down the eastern lands in a week. Yes. A man bowed and was off to send his report. Shangguan Feiyun's eyes shone with excitement. I'm the king of the eastern lands at last. The same occurred in southern lands, with the Murong clan being overrun by an army led by the dragon-cleaving Sword King. He then worked with the outside forces to sweep the entire southern lands. Bailey Jingwei's plan to cut the head was highly effective. Their inside men were in charge of the border, letting Sword Kings slink in with a crack force. They reached the heart of the territory where the command was. By taking them out, the rest were stragglers powerless to resist. And since it was only to handle one group, the attack force could be kept minimal, helping at hiding its movements. By coordinating with the outside forces, they spread out from the inside, taking down all resistances. This made the border defense pointless as 3 lands fell practically overnight. The western lands were alone. Chapter 1152, Devil Palace's Actions. Chapter 1152, Devil Palace's Actions. Proofreader, Papatonks. Whoosh. 1 white and 1 black figure landed in a valley, the exalted double dragons. Looking at the distant wooden house, exalted Hei Ran looked bleak. A report said Luo Alliance's young miss made contact with Bailey Jingwei here. The source is good, so it must be true. Exalted by Mei nodded. We've taken harsh actions, but it's still a shame that the Luo Alliance would take such a path. For Luo Yunhai, they'd even side with Bailey Jingwei and betray the Western lands. Regardless, there's no tolerance for betrayal. Let's see what they have to say when they're caught red-handed. Exalted He Ran stared in front. The door to the house opened, with Luo Yunchang peeking her head out and looking around. She made a sign to make a hole for her to slip through, followed by Zhuge Changfeng and the rest. They made sure to close the seal back. Exalted He Ran's words dripped with hatred. They must have something to hide for even have a barrier to be in place. Humph, the house is beyond suspicious. The central area spy must be inside. I agree. Let's go and catch him. Exalted by Mei shot forth with Exalted He Ran behind. Whoosh. The two blocked Luo Yunchang's group as they left, startling them. This only worked to cement their doubts. Luo Yunchang held a bright smile. Exalted, you gave us a shock appearing out of nowhere, ha. Of course you'd never think we'd come, since you didn't want your evil plan to come to light. Exalted He Ran scorned. Luo Yunchang's eyes rolled around in confusion. Why does Sir Exalted mean? I don't understand. Then let me make it perfectly clear. Exalted by Mei spoke sternly. Your brother is in the hands of the enemy, so you wanted to make a deal with them and sell out Western lands for Luo Yunhai's life. Am I right so far? This house must have Central Area spy. Luo Yunchang's mouth shook, but then she snapped, raving like a banshee from hell. Yeah, I want Yunhai back alive no matter the price, even your precious Western lands. Can you blame me? My brother had toiled hard for Western lands, loyal and honorable. Now that a crime was pinned on him, you didn't do crap, letting the enemy take him. Now you show up accusing me of selling out Western lands? You sold out my brother first. Luo Yunchang, you're narrow-minded. The Central Area framed Luo Yunhai, not us. For the good of Western lands, he honorably gave his life. And what do? You disgrace his noble sacrifice. Would he be happy to be rescued like this? You have no brother, so how can you tell he won't be glad to be back? And another thing, his honor and decency don't mean he has to kill himself for some fools like yourselves. Stop trying to tie him down with honor and righteousness. The Luo clan's noble and righteous character is within our heart and not medals on our chests. When honor becomes our clan's shackle, our unjust crime, that will be the day we will switch tactics, laying waste to everything in sight. I won't give a rat's ass about the Western lands people. Anything to get my brother back. You can survive, but we can't? Luo Yunchang laid out all the pain and sorrow in her heart. Exalted by Mei held up his hand in fury. I'm not here to waste words on some petty woman. I have come to catch the Central Area spy, and you all will be coming to Double Dragon Manor as well to show all of Western lands the truth. Exalted by Mei went to the door and shouted, Listen up, whoever you are, come out at once or I'll make you come out in pain. Ho, Western lands Exalted are so feisty. Anyone can take the throne with no real contender, I see. You two have to work together to fight a sword king, but are worth nothing in the Central Area. While in Western lands you strut like kings. Western lands is a lost cause, haha. Ding. The sounds of zither were heard as the harsh words came out. The Exalted's heart sank, turning grave. Who are you? The zither became louder and the wooden house exploded, with sword energy shooting at the two. The two worked as one against such onslaught, putting all their power in front to resist. But more swords remained, slicing forward and straight into the heavens, making them rumble. 7 notes obscure sword. The two cried out, Zither Sword King. Lu Mubai? The music became mellow as Lu Mubai smiled, playing the zither. But his smile held disdain. You flatter me. What happened to your earlier demands? Didn't you ask me to come out or I'll know pain? Ah, well here I am. How will you make me suffer, I wonder? The two shook in silence. The spy they were after turned out to be a damn sword king. Fighting together would only end up in a draw, unable to take him down. Luo Yunchang, you have some nerve to bring a sword king into the Western lands. Do you not realize the risk? Exalted by Mei glared, what have you done? Luo Yunchang's rose an eyebrow, sneering. Zither Sword King smiled, as Sword King, all acts have heavy implications. I have came here not to squabble but for you too. Be nice and die, haha. Just you? The two scoffed as they showed all they had and more. Zither Sword King said, oh, not just me, with the Luo clan's help as well. Since I came in, others followed, haha. To be frank, I brought 1,000,000 hardened soldiers deep into your home to raid Double Dragon Manor. Once it falls, the Western lands are headless, easy pickings for the 10 million army outside as we coordinate to take down Western lands. This is Prime Minister Bailey's plan to immobilize the head. How long do you think it will take? A week? Maybe less? What? Exalted double dragons cried out in shock, having the time to curse Luo Yuncheng. You dumb broad. You doomed us all. The Exalted ran for the Double Dragon Manor, hoping to preserve Double Dragon Manor's strength before the plan succeeded and assembled the western lands to defend. Zither Sword King watched them go, just as a raging golden fires blocked their path. Another Sword King? The two's hearts sank, finding before them someone familiar. You? Ultimate Clarity Sex Yi Lin at your service. His eyes shone with golden flickers as Yi Lin exploded with terrible power of Zither Sword King's level. Exalted, it's been a while. If you were wondering, I was the one who leaked information about the Luo clan having secret talks here. The Exalted glanced at Zither Sword King behind and at Yi Lin in front, knowing they were set up and fear crept in. You drew us out here to hold us and let Bailey Jingwei succeed. That's Prime Minister Bailey's plan. Zither Sword King snickered. The Exalted were in despair, turning to Yi Lin in confusion. You've been gone for 100 years. How did you end up helping Sword Star Empire again? Exalted, I've never done that. Why stop us then? It's the will of Devil Palace Lord. Yi Lin grinned, I'll come clean. I am one of Devil Palace's 3 emissaries, the Sun Devil Emissary. And this is Devil Palace's action, independent of Bailey Jingwei. The Exalted shuddered, their eyes dazed with doubts. Blast it, Bailey Jingwei wasn't enough, now we have Devil Palace stepping in. The largest underground force and the largest known force act at once, and for what exactly? Chapter 1153, Capital in Turmoil. Chapter 1153, Capital in Turmoil. Proofreader, Papatonks. It was a pitch-black night, with not even the stars and bright moon out to shed some light in this abyss. The only signs were the faint candles on both sides of a valley in neat rows. This was a perfect night for murder, for violence. A man wearing a black robe with stars on his back shivered under it, betraying his mood. There was a huge crowd in front, all wearing black robes. They hung their heads in silence like eerie ghosts, with only the wind whistling and the candlelights flickering. A cup appeared in the man's hands as he raised it above in respect. Darkness comes and the sword star wanes. The devils rise under the palace lord's lead. Devil Palace will replace the empire, establishing a new world order. Roar. The crowd raised their right and roared 3 times, silence soon returning. The Sword Star Empire's armies are split in 4. Their core is defenseless, the best chance for us to seize the imperial capital. The man turned grave, cut the head and the rest will follow. With imperial capital ours, the empire will be in chaos, paving the way for our rise. The world will be ours. The plan's unchanged, attack when needed and block when explained. I offer this cup to the heavens, may our effort bear fruit. He drank the cup and smashed it to pieces. The group had their own cups ready, their toasting a rumble, for our efforts and the unstoppable devils. Bang. All smashed their cups afterward, their eyes shining with battle lust. Devil Palace was coming into the light, to usher in a brave new world. Star Devil Emissary, will the Dharma Kings be joining? A thin man in front raised his hand. The Star Devil Emissary glanced at him coldly. Since when did Devil Palace have to answer to you? Shrinking, the man was silenced, with only his eyes shifting around. Disobedient fool. Star Devil Emissary said, worry not, people, we have complete confidence in success. From our intelligence, Bailey Jingwei had sent some sword kings in the lead of an army each to take the heart of every other land, while the rest would provide support from the borders. There's no one guarding the central area. With our strength, taking imperial capital will be a piece of cake. There's no use of doubt, not when the devils are sure to win. Devils will win. Devils will win. The crowd went wild as they roared, their battle spirit aflame, a sharp contrast from the eerie silence before. The Star Devil Emissary gestured, move out. With one last howl, the crowd went quiet, moving in the darkness like hunters, precise and quick. Boom. The tranquil imperial capital suddenly boomed an hour later as their gates were splintered. The black robes formed neat ranks as they stormed the imperial palace. The patrolling guards started and moved to stop the tide, but the black robes didn't have just numbers but also strength, with 10,000 in the Genesis stage and 1,000 at peak Genesis stage. The guards stood no chance against them, blown away to bloody pieces, their screams echoing in the night. Many vital cities, tactical locations and trade centers of the Empire suffered the same fate. The Empire was crippled, blocking any means of even calling for help. By the looks of it, 3 days would be enough to destroy it completely. The higher one went, the harder the fall. Cut the head before the rest. Devils, kill all royalty and officials, destroy them so they'll never see the light of day. The Star Devil emissary's robe fluttered in the harsh winds as he stepped on corpses and bloody ground, going for the imperial palace and giving orders. He knew they were all valuable officers of the Empire and just one of them slipping away would mean bringing reinforcements. Before he got to the imperial palace they had to purge and remove such risks. Slaughter began with a touch of screaming as they went door to door and leaving no lavish manor unstained with blood. The devils looked possessed with their bloodshot eyes, wanting nothing but death as they exacted judgment even to 5-year-olds. As thugs they had to act like it and not leave anything to chance or future. No one liked violence but no one could deny how effective it was. There was no resistance in the face of such brutality. Cries and shrieks came from all over as the imperial capital started to burn. It was hell. Wu Randong looked up with a smile, but then it slipped away. How nice it would be if it's like this, but it's merely for my own amusement. Boom. A sudden surge of mighty power engulfed the skies, followed by blinding lightning webbing the clouds. SSS. All of imperial capital gasped in shock. Sword King? Rustle. Then the rain of blades came, striking down at the Devil Palace disciples, pulverizing most of them, while leaving others to howl from the missing limb. Devil Palace, you're here at last. A cold voice came from above as a pair of cold eyes stared down on them and sent fear into their core. Frigid rain, Sword King Bali Yuyu? Emissary, they have a Sword King. Will the Dharma Kings come? All pleaded with Wu Randong for help. Wu Randong was stunned as well, then gnashed his teeth and barked, retreat. Leaving already? Think again, ha ha ha. The sinister cackle came as they turned tail, only to find the gate sealed with elite soldiers, led by Bailey Jingwei himself. Bailey Jingwei smiled, one of Devil Palace's 3 emissaries? Haha, sorry but the same move won't work on me. You made a mess of things last time while I was away. Such a mistake I won't ever make again. Sword Kings are supposed to be attacking the 4 lands. Why is one still around? Wu Randong stared then mocked, Bailey Jingwei, what use is one Sword King? Our uprising isn't just in the Imperial Palace. We may lose here but other cities will fall. Your empire will be crippled beyond your imagination. Bailey Jingwei nodded, the empire's military, trade and transportation will be damaged, along with who knows what else you might destroy, but what makes you think I haven't taken precautions for those areas as well? Wu Randong flinched. Prime Minister, my task is complete and I have returned. A thin guy next to Wu Randong walked to Bailey Jingwei and bowed. Wu Randong shuddered, you? Star Emissary, I thank you for all your care these years and for making me your deputy, but I was always with the Prime Minister. The man bowed with a smile. Wu Randong's eyes twitched in anger. Bailey Jingwei laughed, did you really think I only just noticed you? I've been aware ages ago, being patient for the spies I sent among your higher ranks. But I must say Devil Palace sure is tight. After so many years, my spy only got up to deputy emissary. I knew that was the limit. So I no longer waited and acted. Your uprisings have all been accounted for, fended off with Sword Kings. In fact, the forces attacking the 4 lands aren't Sword Kings, that was fake info I gave you and you fell for it. Chapter 1154, World Order. Chapter 1154, World Order. Proofreader, Papatonks. Bailey Jingwei. Wu Randong howled, Devil Palace disciple, kill them all. Yes, sir. The men charged at Bailey Jingwei with the intent to kill and break the enemy lines. Wishful thinking, especially when they came prepared. Bailey Jingwei grinned and stepped back as he signaled. The soldiers behind charged, using this chance to end all future uprising with this one. Blood flowed once more, the clamor deafening, only this time it wasn't a one-sided slaughter but a bloody battle to both sides. And all were driven to kill the other. Devil Palace disciples were elites in their own right, making even the thinned Empire's armies have a tough time handling them. But with a Sword King around, Bali Yuyu, raining death from above, the Devil Palace side could only howl in pain as they were butchered. Star Emissary, where are the Dharma Kings? We can't take on a Sword King. Star Emissary, call a Dharma King to help. Just where are they? Star Emissary, why isn't a Dharma King showing up? What of Palace Lord? Ack. Wu Randong's ears were drowned in the screams of his brothers, but his face was hard, his eyes closed. Zhuo Fan's words played in his mind, you'll have to endure for a bit. Humph, what's so bad with a bit of pain? As long as the empire falls, I'll even accept being cast away. Wu Randong roared with fury, joining the fray without any qualms for his life. I want him alive. Bailey Jingwei singled out the crazed Wu Randong, then looked around. Right, just where are the 5 Dharma Kings and Palace Lord? Besides the Sword Star Empire's imperial capital, many vital cities had uprisings, but unlike a century ago they were all snuffed out. 3 days was all it took to take them all down. All dissidents were either killed, wounded, or in custody with hardly any real damage. The underground society in the empire was thus purged. Even the scouts and spies were soon caught thanks to the betrayal of other spies. Devil Palace had been removed from the central area, down to the last man. A week later, Devil Palace's deputy star emissary was in the Imperial Hall reporting, Your Majesty Prime Minister, from what I've seen, the Empire is free of Devil Palace. I ask that you confirm this. Jingwei, the Empire is at peace. Emperor Bailey Jingshi nodded, the Empire's heart has been in constant unrest for an entire century from Devil Palace's meddling. Now the Empire is whole again. They've used the weaknesses after the war and slipped in, but in just a few days all were removed. While I refrain claiming that every single one got caught, they can hardly be of worth and unable to affect us. Devil Palace is so secretive, the deputy emissary knows hardly half of its affairs, but by drawing them out and along with the deputy emissary's info, the devils hidden in the Empire were driven to extinction. Bailey Jingwei was in a good mood too, the Empire has order once more. I can send the armies without worry, the Empire might come under another uprising. With internal affairs resolved, it's time to focus on external matters. Bailey Jingshi eased as well after a century of deep worry, we now have to wait for news from the 4 lands, haha. That side should be fine. Let's talk about this one first. Bailey Jingwei nodded and said, has the identity of the Devil Palace star emissary been found? Who is he? The deputy bowed. Prime Minister, I've been looking into him these few days and found him to be Serene Shores Trading's second young master, Wu Randong. It's really him. Bailey Jingwei sneered, Humph, I just knew the survivors of Serene Shores Trading started the unrest 100 years ago. Only they had the grounds to connect to the entire world and create such a huge faction. The deputy bowed, I am in awe of the Prime Minister's insight. Since Devil Palace is a cover for Serene Shores Trading, why is he just a Star Devil emissary and not the Palace Lord? Ignoring the blatant bootlicking, Bailey Jingwei huffed, did you find anything about Palace Lord, the kings and the other emissaries? The deputy deflated, Prime Minister, Devil Palace Lord is like a shadow while the kings barely show themselves. The other 2 emissaries are also secretive, hardly in contact with other disciples. The Star Emissary is also secretive, but far more familiar to the disciples and handles most matters of the palace. He united the disciples in 3 lands and had great power. And? Apart from Star Devil Emissary, none in Devil Palace knows who those 8 people are. Bailey Jingwei shouted, let's go to this second young master and find out just how great Serene Shores Trading's master really is. Bailey Jingwei flicked his sleeve and left with the humble deputy. They went through the dark jail and many gates to arrive at a dim cell. Wu Randong sat with his sealed cultivation on a straw mat with eyes closed. Clap. Ha, the second young master looked settled in, gone is the fire from a century ago. Being Star Devil Emissary helped smoothen those edges and made you grow up. Bailey Jingwei clapped and laughed. One thing I don't understand is, since Devil Palace was once Serene Shores Trading, why would you leave this big project in the hands of someone else instead of leading it yourself? Wu Randong mocked, the seat of power has always been taken by the able since time immemorial. I have not the skills to fill it and thus let it go. It's fortunate too, not harming everyone like this. What are you saying? Bailey Jingwei fixed his eyes on him. Wu Randong held a snicker. Palace Lord warned me when he entered seclusion for me to be calm, resuming the plan when he came out. But anger got the best of me and seized the chance to act without permission. As a result, the toil put years after years into the central area was ruined. I'm sad but also glad. For I am not the Palace Lord and only the central area's side was destroyed instead of the entire Devil Palace. Don't you think I was close to getting everyone killed? Ha ha ha. Now I see why only the star emissary attacked. You disobeyed. The deputy nodded. Bailey Jingwei stared hard, his eyes shining. You think I'd buy that? Can't you be honest for a change? Believe what you will. I lament my impulsiveness in not doing it to inform you. You'll probably forget my words trying to guess my mind instead, haha. Wu Randong, you've gotten sharp, unlike the old and rash second young master. Bailey Jingwei said, who is the palace lord and the 5 Dharma kings? Wu Randong sneered. The deputy raged, showcasing his lapdog personality by trying to make him talk to get a pat from his master. But Bailey Jingwei waved him off. I never use violence for confessions because anything said under pain can't be trusted. Bailey Jingwei smirked. Guard, announced that Serene Shores Trading, the current Devil Palace's Star Devil emissary Wu Randong, is to be executed 10 days later by heavenly punishment. Let all lands know. Wu Randong scorned, threatening me? No, only telling your palace lord to come out. He is shrewd and decisive. He won't fall for such an obvious trap. Wu Randong chuckled. Bailey Jingwei snickered as well. I know, anyone could see the trap from a mile away, but some traps can't be avoided. What? Gossip is dreadful. Bailey Jingwei said, Devil Palace is built on Serene Shores Trading, which means there are many elders from it. By giving everything to him, if he doesn't help you in time of need, could he still stay a palace lord? He has no choice but to come. My people are sensible men. Just how I witnessed my family being killed, the elders won't stir. Wu Randong's eyes grew red, recalling the tragedy. They know what's to be done. To you maybe, but to an outsider like Palace Lord? Humph. Bailey Jingwei huffed. In any case, I don't need to know who he really is. In 10 days I'll have him reveal himself instead, haha. Chapter 1155, Bestowal. Chapter 1155, Bestowal. Proofreader, Papatonks. Wu Randong's eyes shook and clenched his fists. He was trying to hold it in, but the bloodshot eyes betrayed his anger. Bailey Jingwei gave a winning smirk. A guard rushed in and bowed with 4 jade slips in his hands. Prime Minister, reports from the lands came in of the completed operations. There are only stragglers fleeing, the Sword Kings are sending the soldiers to deal with. Overall, the 4 lands are seized. Truly? Bailey Jingwei lit up and snatched the jade slips. He read them and exploded, Ha, a new world order. My nation rules all the lands at long last. Next remains handling the 2 dissidents. With them out of the way, humph. Bailey Jingwei smirked and shouted, have all officials assemble in the imperial capital. His Majesty will bestow rewards and titles to celebrate this momentous occasion, ha. Yes. The guard looked pleased as well as he ran to carry out the order. The deputy emissary glanced at Wu Randong with mockery, then slammed the cell door shut. Their steps echoed in the distance, leaving Wu Randong in solitude. Wu Randong grinned, Palace Lord's cunning is flawless. He had me practice emotion and facial expression control. It took all I had not to laugh in Bailey Jingwei's face, ha. Wu Randong let out a carefree laughter, sharp like a crow's that sent a chill down one's spine. 3 days later, Zither Sword King sat in Double Dragon Manor's heaven-reaching pavilion as he played a soothing tune matching the scenery. A ruckus sounded out of nowhere, disturbing the peace. Zither Sword King's hand halted and he sighed. Uncultured Philistine. Zither Sword King shook his head, finding Li Jingtian bringing her thuggish venerable along with a bow. The Luo clan has blockaded western lands and is hunting down the stragglers. How might we be of help, Zither Sword King, having called us? Zither Sword King gave them a look, like a service clan, you're not a good fit with me. Music is wasted on you. They shared puzzled looks. How's the hunt going then? Even if some escape, they can never be allowed to leave western lands. The Luo clan has lived the military way and is more than efficient in this. Those remnants won't escape us. Zither Sword King can rest assured. Luo Yunchang spoke with pride and a smile. Zither Sword King eased and took out a jade slip. Prime Minister Bailey sent word, calling all ministers and officials to the imperial capital for bestowal. You've helped make things easier by working with us and have most credit for this achievement. You shall come with me. Bailey Jingwei will release Yunhai? Luo Yunchang was stern, snatching the jade slip and looking at it with hope. Zither Sword King nodded and resumed playing. In Northern Land Sea Bright Sect, Bailey Yuyun took the highest people to Sect Leader Hall, coughing, Ahem, you've done well everyone. Report. The past few days were spent with the Sun Sea sect working with the three Sword Kings and the Central Area's 10 million soldiers at the borders to clean the northern lands. Without the Sea Bright sect leading, the other three sects were aimless, killed off so easily. But many people are hiding and scared. We couldn't find them. At the moment, we are conducting a wide search to root them out and leave nothing for the Empire to suffer later. Bu Xingyun was the first to stand in front with his head held high and his chest puffed out. Only Ouyang Changqing and the four elders have yet to be found posing problems. As Sword King level experts. Bailey Yuyun waved him off. Haha, leave it be. What of it anyway? The northern lands are ours, so what can they possibly do? They'll end up surrounded like last time. The invincible sword had been surrounded then and had suffered so, which means they will only have it worse. Ha ugh. Bu Xingyun choked, noticing Bailey Yuyun's cold glare. Bailey Yuyun was grave. Sect leader Bu, you're the Empire's official now, not of northern lands anymore. Patriarch is our god and you treat him as a joke? No, never. It's Sir Hu. I only said how to deal with them, not hinting Patriarch. But you. Sword King, I was wrong. Spare me please. Bu Xingyun wailed in tears. Blast it all to hell. You started going back memory lane and now you pin it on me? Were you setting me up? Damn right it's a setup. Bailey Yuyun sneered inside, his eyes shining. Never mind, I'll overlook it the first time. Just make sure to remember that Patriarch is never to be questioned. Yes, thank you, Sword King, for your mercy. Bu Xingyun spoke at ease. Bailey Yuyun nodded and showed a jade slip. Prime Minister Bailey called everyone back to the imperial capital for their rewards. Sect leader Bu, you are the Northern Lands King and it will soon become official as well. Aha, congratulations. Bu Xingyun was overwhelmed with emotion, but he noticed Bailey Yuyun's smirk and he realized. Curses, did he set me up because he eyes my power as Northern Lands King? Sword King, you jest. It's all due to Sir's help in earning this glory. I will never forget it. I shall listen to Sir's every word even if named King. Sect leader Bu is so polite. Bailey Yuyun chuckled. A Northern Lands King was like a regional governor, having great sway in the Empire. Being the Northern Lands King, I will rise in status in the Empire, and Bailey Yuyun is using him to get higher too. You may have gotten glory, but I can bury you just as easily. Catching his drift, Bu Xingyun became touched by Bailey Yuyun's care. Where's that old wine sword immortal? I don't know. He hasn't been seen in days. Bu Xingyun answered like a good puppy. A stench of wine wafted in, followed by wine sword immortal himself with a filled jar. His nose looked red like a tomato. I've scoured Sea Bright Sec's cellar and found at last that Northern Lands does have some good wine. This icy wine is so smooth and cool, I've never tasted anything like it. You should all try it, but just a sip. I barely found 30 of these. Even with 30 jars, you're still only letting others sip? Humph, you blind stinking drunk. Bailey Yuyun mocked. Wine sword immortal, Prime Minister called us to the imperial capital for rewards. Be ready. We're leaving now? There's loads of fine wine in the north that I've yet to sample. You go while I try some more for a couple of days. Make sure you don't miss it. It's too important. Bailey Yuyun glared, waving the others to follow him out. We're going. Humph, that's just how the old drunkard is. See ya. Wine sword immortal waved them off with a goony smile, then his smile fell once they were gone. His drunk look was replaced with gravity, shouting, Guard, assemble the men. The eastern lands and southern lands got Bailey Jingwei's message as well. Shengguan Feiyun grew eager at the thought of a ceremony and rushed to the imperial capital. Dan Qingshun was respectfully sending off the officials sent to southern lands, while he did the same as Wine Sword Immortal, assembling the men for some baffling reason. But with it taking time, they were bound to reach the imperial capital 3 days later. In a blizzard, a man was sitting upright on the ice, a black sword hovering in front casting an eerie glint in the sun. Chapter 1156, 7 Layers Growth. Chapter 1156, 7 Layers Growth. Proofreader, Papatonks. The space warped around Zhuofan as his aura grew violent. The sky was rumbling and a fierce wind picked up. The sea churned and battered the shore with bigger and bigger waves. The only quiet place was around Zhuofan, but it was under a heavy pressure, forced into keeping still like an active volcano ready to explode. Zhuofan shook just then and howled at the sky. The skies shook and black energy flowed into the heavens, swallowing everything until there was nothing but darkness. The sun was covered as well, turning day into night. This was Zhuofan's Genesis stage effect of using world power, demonic sky. This was just the start, for Zhuofan shook again and dragons roared in veneration. The black sky had then formed countless black dragons, roaming through the darkness. Their whipping tails shuddered the world around them. They looked like heavenly punishment sent from up above to lay waste to all creation. This was the effect of Zhuofan's twin souls in the Genesis stage, draconic sky. The strongest beast soul, heaven dragon soul, turned the demonic sky into its own lair. As the king of beasts, it would tear apart anything that barged into its domain with all the black dragons. It was beyond even demonic sky's sword dragon. Danqing Shin dragon cleaving power was more like a strengthened spiritual weapon. One couldn't take it, but dodging was more than possible. Zhuofan's demonic dragon nest, however, was a meat grinder. It was a combination of domain soul and dragon soul, on an entirely new level. Was this the end though? Course not. Danqing Shin's power came from the sword and dragon, while Zhuofan's came from a domain and dragon. But since he also had a sword within. Ding. Ringing sounded as the demonic sword felt as Zhuofan's power grew exponentially and surged with glee. It then jumped out of the ice and soared into the sky. The black sky surged, with its thick darkness reaching for the demonic sword while the thousands of dragons roared and converged. The blackness gathered on the demonic sword, growing it to 300 meters. The waves of raw power it oozed sent the North Sea rippling stronger and stronger. Zhuofan shouted at the skies once more, shooting into the air and grabbing the hilt. Boom. The black clouds around the sword exploded, scattering everywhere and unleashing black sword waves, destroying anything in their path. Even the barrier couldn't take it for long, sporting bigger and bigger cracks. As Zhuofan held the demonic sword, he looked like a demon from hell. Darkness ebbed into his surroundings, devouring as it went while the sword auras destroyed the rest. Boom. Once all settled down and the sky turned bright again, Zhuofan put down the demonic sword and found no trace of ice where he could sit. His flashy display had it all melted. And this was ice heaven sealing CAO made with his sealing power, the same ice the invincible sword couldn't even scratch. Yet it was no match for the black sword waves. Zhuofan had, beyond any shadow of a doubt, surpassed the invincible sword, the past 100 years one at least. Brat, are you mental? Plop. A one-eyed huge head popped out of the water, roaring, using Dragon Soul with 9 Serenity's domain, then adding Sword Sovereign's 4 fused swords. Are you trying to break the heavens? This place can't take it, so scram already. Just look at the mess you've made of my place. Zhuofan grinned and bowed. Senior CAO, thank you so much for your care this past century, or I would have never learned the depths of the 4 sword arts. Spare me, I only shared with you the sword intent the Sword Sovereign leaked when he formed it. You did all the work, not me. I also wanted to see if the arts would have joined as the swords did. It was just an experiment, not meant to help you. Stop reading too much into it. Zhuofan nodded. I understand, but learning the sword here for so many years has disturbed you. Now that I'll leave, I may never return. Take care, senior. You're really leaving? CAO looked reluctant but then nodded. Yeah, you should go, if not to fight to find that girl. At least get her back. Zhuofan nodded solemnly. Only a sovereign could form a sovereign path, giving him endless lifespan. Regardless of who put it in him, it was now with Qingqing. He wasn't that hurried to get it back though. But wealth stirred envy, inviting disaster. He could not let her become another's prey. Zhuofan bowed once more. Senior, farewell. Zhuofan left, with CAO watching him go. The human kid is gone and now I feel bored. Should I go find another? Who in this world would be as interesting as him? What a drag. Zhuofan came out of CAO's domain to find 2 people standing tall with respect. They cheered up at his coming and Shower said, Congratulations, Father, on reaching Genesis stage. Father's in the first layer of profound heaven? Then the strength should be at Genesis, Gu Santong tested. Feeling his own strength, Zhuofan said, Genesis stage 7th layer. 7th? You went through 7 of them? There was nothing. Having focused on learning swordsmanship, my cultivation was long since ready to take the leap. It was just sitting there for the last step. Moreover, it contains insights in the sword. Though the regress was a little small. Zhuofan sighed. I feel the path the 10 ancient sovereigns were after isn't far. This makes the true self art incredible. While training the heart, it is in tune with the Tao. Now you're mocking all those experts and mighty lords scrambling for better and better cultivation methods. And it turns out to be in the hands of averages? Maybe because it's average that it conforms with the world's nature. Qiao teased and Zhuofan exclaimed, some that go too far forget their start, making them grow further and further apart. The two were stumped, not getting anything from that. Zhuofan had a feeling. He just needed to test it now. But that was for later. What mattered now was to finish the ascension. Zhuofan asked them, has the plan been going smoothly? All according to your predictions, father. Good, then let's make a trip to the Sword Star Empire's capital and finish my last fight in the mortal domain. Ding. A black sword pointed ahead and Zhuofan grinned, thirsting for battle. The Dark Demon Lord was bearing his fang at the Empire. In the imperial capital, all grand officials and ministers gathered. In the lead was Zither Sword King and the Luo clan, followed by Shangguan Feiyun, Southern Lands Group and Northern Lands Group. Danqing Shen and Wine Sword Immortal were 3 days late. Sorry I'm late, hahaha. 1,000 pardons. Cupping hands all over the place, Wine Sword Immortal and Dragon Cleaving Sword King came to the Imperial Hall. Bailey Jingwei smiled, Dragon Cleaving Sword King and Wine Sword Immortal, why the delay? The old drunkard found a stash of good wine, you understand, right, Prime Minister? Haha, Bailey Yuyun mocked. Wine Sword Immortal glared at him then chuckled at everyone else. Bailey Jingwei nodded, having known his style, but he asked, Dragon Cleaving Sword King, what about you? I picked up someone's trail in Southern Lands and invited him here, making me Tari, Prime Minister. Danqing Shen smiled. Bailey Jingwei raised an eyebrow. Who? It can't be Murong Clan's venerables requiring Dragon Cleaving Sword King's personal assistance, can it? Of course not, those foggies hardly need 3 days, let alone wasting so much time to track them, ha. Then, Bailey Jingwei's eyes shone with curiosity. Chapter 1157, Sentenced. Chapter 1157, Sentence. Proofreader, Papatonks. Clap. Danqing Shen showed a vague smile, then a guard brought a gorgeous woman and that took even Bailey Jingwei by surprise. Murong Shui? I heard she was around so I stayed a few more days before coming to Prime Minister. Danqing Shen smiled. Bailey Jingwei nodded and laughed. Dragon Cleaving Sword King is the cornerstone of the Empire, making such efforts. Murong Shui has been hiding for a century and now we have her once more. Now Murong Lai or their venerables will have to come out. Haha, the Empire will have them cornered and remove one more danger. Humph, think again. Not even I could find my brother after all these years, him having ignored any and all affairs. He won't come even if you have me. Murong Shui mocked. Bailey Jingwei smiled. Miss Murong, better pray your news will reach your brother. It's such a pity for a pretty lady like you, haha. Guard, add one name to the execution list. In 5 days, the traitorous Murong woman will be executed by heavenly punishment. Let the lands know. If Murong Lai and the rest come out, humph, give them her corpse. Yes. The guard bowed and took away the cold Murong Shui. Bailey Jingwei smiled, turning to the others, everyone here is a valued official. His Majesty will bestow to you all your reward on the day of the execution, thanking you for all your efforts in the Empire's campaign. Thank you, Prime Minister. They all echoed and laughed. Luo Yunchang pondered and asked, Prime Minister, could you release my brother and his wife? Oh, Alliance Leader Luo. Making a show of recalling it, Bailey Jingwei nodded with a smile and shouted, Guard, arrest the Luo clan. What? Luo Yunchang's group started, finding themselves seized by Zither Sword King and Shangguan Feiyun. Not even the venerables could do anything. Prime Minister Bailey, what's the meaning of this? Zhuge Changfeng spat. Bailey Jingwei shrugged with a twisted smile, isn't it obvious? Your traitors being caught for execution 5 days from now. Prime Minister Bailey, we surrendered, so why? You did, but not your alliance leader. Bailey Jingwei spoke harshly, I should reward you for having helped with Western lands, by releasing alliance leader Luo. But with your leader against me, what then am I supposed to do if he starts messing things up? So I can't let him go. You could complain that I broke my word and start fighting me as well. That's too much of a pain. So might as well get rid of you all. Without the Luo alliance, none of that will happen, right? Ha ha ha. Zhuge Changfeng cursed, Bailey Jingwei, you backstabbing bastard. I want to keep my word, but your alliance leader Luo wouldn't feel like living up to the deal. Bailey Jingwei shrugged, sneering at the three minds. Besides, back in that house, I told you three that I'll talk if you guessed my intent. But in the end, none of you had the right to negotiate with me. All the pieces were in my hand while you couldn't even have the option to choose. Take them away. Guards escorted the Luo clan out, leaving behind a trail of curses and shouts. Bailey Jingwei smiled, only the weak bark. If that would have done the trick, why would the strong need their fists? Ha ha ha. Wise Prime Minister. The others bowed. Bailey Jingwei nodded. Sword King Lu, have the Luo clan's members been dealt with? The Luo clan is in charge of the western lands borders. They'll notice the slightest movement and it will take time to handle them all. It's fine, we'll deal with as many as we can. It won't matter how many escape. As long as the Luo Alliance's top brass are dead, they'll be lost, walking right into our traps. I'll give the word to pull in the net. Zither Sword King nodded. The rest's hearts sank. Bailey Jingwei was cruel and sick, not even willing to give them any chance of even fighting. Ignoring the obvious discontent in others, Bailey Jingwei's smile never left his face. Everyone can now take rest in your quarters in the Imperial Palace. In 5 days the ceremony will begin. As for Luo Alliance, you don't have to worry, I'm not one to throw people away. I always reward those that have the good of the Empire in mind. The Luo clan was too ambivalent and had to be resolved. You understand? We're amazed by the Prime Minister's thoroughness. They all bowed. Bailey Jingwei left pleased as the rest disbanded while whispering about the event. They failed to notice Bailey Jingwei looking over his shoulder at them, his eyes cold and disdainful. Ceremony? Ah, how unbearably naive. 5 days later will be a day of peace for the Sword Star Empire. All danger shall be purged, ha. Bailey Jingwei cackled to himself. 5 days later, in the imperial capital's main square, the place was packed with the city's people. For today was the execution of many convicts. In the previous execution, only Bailey Jingshi and Bailey Jingwei were present. But this time, there were the 10 Sword Kings and the officials from the Four Lands, including the traitor Bu Xingyun. On the scaffold, many kneeled, people from many factions and all with renown. The first was the ex-leader of Northern Lands, Sea-Bright sect leader Ling Yuntian. Feeling his scraped knees on the wood and his cultivation sealed, the eyes of everyone made him feel like a circus animal, filling him with shame. Bu Xingyun, you rotten animal. You sold out Northern Land sections. Your day will come. To see it's my day? Not before yours, bag of bones. Bu Xingyun mocked, looking mighty smug at the old man. Wu Randong was calm by contrast, neither sad nor happy. But some of the people below pointed at him knowing who he was, in regret. So many people from the Serene Shores trading died 100 years ago, but they still had an heir. Now even he is culled. What sin is this to not even spare their bloodline? Next was the Luo clan looking forlorn. Luo Yunchang was bleak, gnashing her teeth in anger at the vilifying words of the crowd below. Blasted Zhuofan, what the hell has he been scheming? I've never been insulted like this in my life. Now I'm about to get the noose, yet he still takes his time? Is he waiting for me to die? This rotten vial. Sister, what are you saying? Luo Yunhai muttered, earning her glare before she exclaimed, just die in peace and leave me alone, humph. Luo Yunhai flinched, stumped. Sister, we all are doing the dying here. Couldn't you give us one last good memory? Not like there will be any left. Luo Yunhai sighed. Sister, I know you care for me, but how could you trust Bailey Jingwei? Now we're all sentenced. If only Sifin is safe. Don't worry, the girl's fine. And you really thought I'd trust Bailey Jingwei? I'm trusting, never mind. Luo Yunchang stopped herself. Luo Yunhai was puzzled. Sister, are you that frightened? Luo Yunhai sighed. We'll be going to the underworld river together. You must be scared. Never, not with you by my side. Yue smiled. Luo Yunhai nodded and smiled back, comforted. As the sun reached its peak, Bailey Jingwei grinned and shouted, let the execution start. A few array masters made signs and thunder flickered above as they gathered power. Bu Xingyun and Shengguan Feiyun grew excited. For after the heads rolled, they'd get their prize, becoming lords. Only Dan Shen and a few others eased a breath, looking at the lightning and then far in the distance. Chapter 1158, The Thunderous Darkness Strike. Chapter 1158, The Thunderous Darkness Strike. Proofreader, Papatonks. Rumble. Heavenly punishment, the highest form of execution the Sword Star Empire could employ. When the empire was formed, a 12th grade array was set up in the square center, holding their patriarch's earth-ranked martial art gleaned from the divine sword, Void Slash. The 12 array masters made signs and thunder rumbled, forming a thunder sword in the sky capable of erasing any and all life. Taking such a strike would destroy one in body, mind and soul. Because of its brutality, none could stop it, becoming the empire's highest form of punishment. At each sentence, the emperor, prime minister, and all officials were there in respect for the patriarch. Patriarch was their god, and their god would strike down the criminals while they would prostrate before him. Heavenly punishment is about to descend. Is there any sign of him? The rumbling lightning grew louder and louder, with lightning snaking through the sky as it converged into a terrifying blade. Murong Shui glanced at the blinding light and sighed, I must have lost my mind. Why did I ever agree to this? I just knew he was no good. The imperial capital's residents gasped and awed, treating it like a light show. It's so rare to see heavenly punishment with hardly any more heavy criminals that need such attention to deter the rest of the world. The first usage began around 3,000 years ago when it was used freely. Later it was barely used once a few centuries until the empire ruled the lands and shook the world. Then the punishment was so rare that it didn't get brought up as a punishment until 1,000 years later to the present era. With the most recent being used on serene shores trading 100 years ago. But now it was happening again, making the people thrilled. Such a sight was so rare everyone got fired up, with the first-timers giddy beyond belief. Wu Randong watched the infatuated crowd with a critical eye, scorning them. There were plenty of ways to kill a man. Why do you think the empire chose this particular way? It's for all of you. Making an example of us to scare away the ignorant masses, as in you fools. The empire's thunder blade is bearing down our necks, but isn't also hovering over yours? And you're thrilled by it? Closing his eyes, Wu Randong ignored the filth of the world, waiting with calm for a strike, or rather the thunder blade to free him. He had done all he could and was ready to go. While he was without regret, his people couldn't be more in pain. Seeing the thunder blade above, they cried, Save us, Palace Lord, 5 Dharma Kings. Save us. We don't want to die. Palace Lord, save us. We always believed in your might as the one supreme being. Darkness consumes the stars and the Sword Star Empire will fall. Devils are victorious, darkness strikes, takes the skies and makes us kings. Devils are victorious, darkness strikes, takes the skies and makes us kings. They yelled their lungs out, whether in belief or clinging to their last hope. It started with one, then more and more Devil Palace disciples shouted, their howls drowning the sky. Their bloodshot eyes, their fervent gazes and the booming cries spread through the imperial capital. The audience never even heard of Devil Palace being your average people. But they could feel their hearts thumping at the convicts' howls, turning perplexed. Are they begging for mercy? It doesn't sound like the usual way they do it in the Empire, but praying for some devil. Can this devil save them all from the Empire? That can't be. The people refused to believe it, but seeing their looks and hearing their heartfelt wishes, doubts formed as they themselves muttered those infectious words. Devils are victorious, darkness strikes, takes the skies and makes us kings. Devils are victorious, darkness strikes, takes the skies and makes us kings. Bailey Jingwei's ears twitched, watching with cold eyes and indifferent expression. He wanted to draw out their palace lord and kings, to finish everything here and now. Once Devil Palace was gone, everyone would see the might of the Empire, its invincibility. But if he was a no-show, the harder these guys shouted, the heavier the blow to Dark Demon Lord's name would be. What can a strong man do when he can't even rally men? How can he ever compete with an empire? Humph. Ling Yuntian and other captives heard the Devil Palace disciples and their mad shouts, but shook their heads. Are they cultists? Have they lost their minds? With 10 Sword Kings watching, you expect some lord to come here in enemy territory? The invincible sword of before was the best example of human wave tactics. What fool would risk his life for you all? Wake the hell up. Luo Yunhai shook her head. They're so naive to think the leadership would care for the little guy. The Dark Demon Lord would never come. Quiet, Yunhai, even if it's not for them, it'll be for us. Luo Yunhai started, turning a piercing stare at his sister, asking in confusion, Sister, what makes you so sure? You know this Dark Demon Lord? You know him too. He's... Rumble. The thunderclap drowned her voice as the thunder blade 300-meter long was done and fell on their necks. Bailey Yuqian's power wasn't something anyone could take, even if that was a couple thousand years ago. Everyone would be dead. Boom. The dreadful power rushed down on its victims, crushing their hearts, and still no savior in sight. The best chance was before the thunder blade struck. Now it was too late. Feeling abandoned, Devil Palace disciples' blind shouts turned weak and soon into sobbing. Palace Lord. That dead man doesn't care at all about me? Luo Yunchang saw the blade coming down and cursed. Luo Yunhai was calm, then he faced his wife with a smile. Let's go together. Let's, husband. Yuer smiled back. The two closed their eyes, welcoming release. Bailey Jingwei smiled in pride. Dark Demon Lord is nothing, ha. Everything will end with no chance of turning it around. Earth level Devil Palm. A calm voice echoed throughout the square, one of disdain. The boundless space held one long shadow. It grew fast to the size of hundreds of meters, taking the shape of a black hand. The thunder blade felt stifled, its oppressive power sapped as it halted its descent. The victims were gaping. Bailey Jingwei jumped to his feet, clenching his fists. He actually came? The people started in utter shock. It stopped, the heavenly punishment was stopped. Oh. How can the godlike Bailey Yuqian's earth-ranked martial art be blocked? Who did it? With a cooling breeze, clothes ruffled. People whipped around their heads to see a man in white with covered eyes, the picture of godhood, floating down on the scaffold and bearing a snicker. The face had them all frozen, the smile giving them the feeling he held all the power, all the secrets in the world. Zhuo Fan. Bailey Jingwei cried out in utter disbelief, his eyes trembling. Whoosh. The 10 Sword Kings stood, watching the familiar figure with amazement and some glee. Bali Yuyu was beaming with joy. The brat is alive. He's still alive. Chapter 1159, 100-Year Plan. Chapter 1159, 100-Year Plan. Proofreader, Papatonks. Boom. The violent lightning above grew more explosive as it burst with fury. The thunder blade wanted nothing more than to exact its judgment and destroy everything. The Black Palm had something else in mind though, blocking and shielding the area by stopping its descent. Zhuo Fan was quite casual, floating over on the scaffold. None made a move, for not even Bailey Jingwei and the Sword Kings could come out of their shock at seeing this deadly enemy. The guards stayed put, for they were just like the common people, gapping at the heavenly punishment being blocked for the first time. Zhuo Fan was like a god coming down on this world, letting him reach the scaffold with no hindrance, approaching the kneeling victims. None made a sound, making every word echo. Stinking brat, when have I ever taught you to compromise against a tough enemy? Luo Yunhai was waiting for his end, but flinched at the familiar words. He then opened his eyes to see in the blazing sun the same face he knew all those years, tearing up at the reunion. Alliance leader Luo, the second best man in Western lands, ended up acting like a child, Big Brother Zhua. Master. Steward Zhua. The others snapped their attention and cried out in joy. The pillar of the Luo clan had been gone for more than a century, but now he was finally back, the first steward Zhuo Fan. Luo Yunchang's eyes reddened, glaring at him in anger and even more joy as tears fell. The Luo clan's happiness made the other convicts open their eyes with a start. He's not dead. Ling Yuntian and many more were staring blankly. Murong Shui eased a breath. At least he kept his word and came before I ended up in a grave for nothing. Wu Randong opened his eyes and grinned. Palace Lord, you're here at last. He's the Dark Demon Lord of Devil Palace? The Devil Palace disciple started, then looked at the blocked thunder blade above, moved. Yes, he's our Palace Lord. Palace Lord, you came to save us. Greetings, Palace Lord. The rest started shouting and knocking their heads in relief and happiness. Others were stumped. Zhuo Fan's the Palace Lord, the Dark Demon Lord who controls the world's underground. As the convicts grew rowdy on the scaffold, the rest blinked in confusion. The Grand Marshal of the Four Lands ended up being the leader of the strongest shadow group 100 years later. The people pointed Zhuo Fan out, whispering about him. Who could this man be to stop the heavenly punishment and earn such adoration from the convicts? All eyes were on him as Zhuo Fan took the stage with a riveting entrance. Everyone forgot this was supposed to be an execution of the Sword Star Empire's criminals. The thunder blade was still hanging overhead. Bailey Jingwei's face twitched, raising his head to clap. The clamor dimmed just from that. The people turned to him, waking up to the reality that this was the imperial capital's heart. The emperor and prime minister were present and could not be ignored. The convicts quietened, turning grave. Zhuofan had come, but saving them was another matter, especially with the 10 sword kings around. It was too early to rejoice. Bailey Jingwei smiled. Sir Zhua, it's truly been too long. I thought you were dead and have mourned you for years. But to think you'd come out again bringing me such joy. We can now compete again, ha ha ha. Hold up, we'll go down memory lane later. Let me just deal with this buzzing thing overhead first. It doesn't sit right to have a sword on my neck, it makes me jumpy, ha. Zhuofan snickered, raising his right arm and making a fist. Boom. The black hand clenched as well and the thunder blade exploded into pretty harmless lights. The shockwave washed over the square, making the array masters recoil and spit blood, horrified. The imperial capital's residents gasped as it passed, looking at Zhuofan in fear. Their god's heavenly punishment was broken just like that. The Sword King's hearts shuddered, turning grave. None of them could do that. His power is on a different level. Zhuofan brushed his arms of imaginary dust, smirking at Bailey Jingwei. Now then, Prime Minister, where were we? Bailey Jingwei's face fell, but put on a smile. Ha, Sir Zhuo is mighty in sword and the pen, I just cannot compare. But there are times that not even a great talent such as you can make a difference. What makes you so sure? Isn't it obvious? Sir Zhuo had been in seclusion these days and I moved with speed to secure the 4 lands. Bailey Jingwei laughed with pride. With a new world order in place, no matter how tough you are, you have no assets, without support and can't do anything to change that. While I can move the entire world into rooting you out, the same tactic you used before. Coming alone into the heart of the empire only got you trapped, Ling Yuntian sighed. They had the 4 lands as support before and could hold off the central area's armies. But with the lands fallen, there's no resistance left. Who can face an entire world by themselves? Bailey Yuqian only faced the soldiers of 2 lands and was close to breathing his last. Now Zhuofan alone would. All shook their heads in despair, not optimistic of Zhuofan's chances. Only a few Luo clansmen held their calm. Zhuofan had a quirky smile. Prime Minister, you're right about one thing. Alone, I don't have the strength to fight the might of the current empire without men or support. Only what makes you think I'm alone? Wah. Bailey Jingwei's heart sank, then became frantic. I've removed Devil Palace from the central area and you think your forces in the other lands can stop the central area? Ah, is this a bluff? You'd have tried that already if you could instead of waiting until now. I don't believe you suddenly have the strength to fight the empire when 100 years couldn't help and your men are weakened. Zhuofan cocked an eyebrow. Some things you just have to believe, maybe it's true. What's that supposed to mean? Bailey Jingwei tensed, his eyes fixed on him. Zhuofan grinned wildly. If the Prime Minister really wants to know, why not try understanding the 100-year plan? You'll see then. Advise me then, Sir Zhuo. Bailey Jingwei nodded. He would have scoffed at anyone else's request, since none could compare to his brilliant scheming genius. Only Zhuofan, his archenemy, was worth the attention after matching him every step of the way. They were like perfect chess partners. It'd be great to have a close friend to share his exquisite planning. His old enemy made for such a close friend. Then, Sir Zhuo, it all began with the World War 100 years ago. The empire had fallen in its harshest times, in turmoil, but I have never taken my eyes off the other lands. Chapter 1160, Shaodvi Nong. Chapter 1160, Shaodvi Nong. Proofreader, Papatonks. Glancing at Bu Xingyun and the rows of spies, Bailey Jingwei smiled. The world war may have been over and the empire's losses the smallest, but with Sir Zhuo using serene shores trading to fan the flames in our territories, you've pushed us close to collapse. I knew then that it would take 100 years for the empire to recover from the unrest. For that reason I made a deal with those foolish leaders for a century-long peace. Oh, I wanted their lands, but I feared their meddling more by bringing more chaos to our empire. The Sword Star Empire people sneered, giving a look of scorn at the said leaders turned convicts. These morons fell for our delay tactic and were mighty pleased with it. Ah, the idiots! Ling Yuntian was outraged. Bailey Jingwei is vile and shrewd. Our talks hadn't been in our favors at all. I should have just made him cede land as reparations. It never occurred to him that taking anything from Bailey Jingwei was possible. After the war, I noticed the shifting sands beneath the surface in the empire, making another large military campaign like last time impossible. At the very least, half the soldiers had to be stationed to secure the empire and prevent more unrest or collapse. This was a constraint put on me in facing the four lands, unable to go all out against them. Bailey Jingwei continued with a glimmer in his eyes as he pointed at Bu Xingyun, but this time sect leader Bu was a boundless source of inspiration. He's a spy I placed in the northern lands in time of the last war. His job was simple, to break the Sea-Bright sect's barrier. But it ended up with him saving the leaders of the four lands. Sea-Bright sect Ling thought so highly of him that he was entrusted with important duties. His power only grew from then on, leaving the northern lands' defenses in his care. It got me thinking, if the enemy's defense is controlled by one of my men, it couldn't be easier. War would become pointless, and it saved loads of time too. All it lacked was a suitable plan to take the enemy lair. Ling Yuntian gasped in shame. It was all due to indulging Bu Xingyun that Bailey Jingwei had an easy time breaching their defenses and taking his home. Ignoring sect leader Ling's guilt, Zhuo Fan held a constant smile. So Prime Minister turned to finding particular spies. Yes. Correct, having spies in the leadership of every land would prove crucial to further my plans. Bailey Jingwei's eyes shone, pointing at the said spies. The war just ended and the lands were in urgent need of making up for their losses, making it the best chance to climb the ranks. I thus chose potential candidates for me to use. Starting with Eastern lands, I chose Shangguan Yuheng because she was the mother of Shangguan Yulin, the best disciple in the Eastern lands. Shangguan Yulin's position made me understand her status, but then Shangguan Yulin turned traitor and died. His mother grew petty and hateful. This only helped more. The higher she went, the more she loathed the Shangguan clan. Could you ask for a better candidate? Ha ha ha. Bailey Jingwei laughed, earning a glare from Shangguan Yuheng. Bailey Jingwei shrugged. Don't look at me, those aren't my words but Sword King Fei Yun's. Though that's reality. To a person consumed by hatred, nothing matters, not even their clan. They'd want it destroyed just the same. But how could she climb the ranks harboring revenge? I then changed her name to Monyang to show remorse, for Mo alludes to a mother atoning for her son. And thanks to Shangguan Feixiong going into seclusion, the huge clan only had a little girl leading it. Ah, women ruthless and soft. Feixiong's daughter actually accepted the apology and considered Monyang a close friend. Maybe even closer. She was all alone in the clan and then she found the auntie's shoulder to lean on, becoming practically kin. It's a gift from heaven if I do say so myself. Shangguan Monyang used her power alongside the young miss to gain control over the borders and complete the task I had for her. Zhuo Fan nodded with a thumbs up. Marvelous. Why thank you, Steward Zhuo. Bailey Jingwei shrugged then. As for southern lands, Murong clan had few people, left with only Foggies enjoying retirement. This made it even easier to get a spy. And now we came to the real issue, western lands. The Luo clan made the best candidate on paper, pulling it in with some promises, but it's too damn stubborn, unbudging in some areas, and it slipped out of my grasp. I didn't want to deal with them and had no choice but to resort to a little trick to pry them apart and surrender to me. Don't forget my Devil Palace, Zhuo Fan reminded him. Bailey Jingwei nodded. Right, the Devil Palace Steward Zhuo established was a plague to my heart. All because it was rooted deep in the central area. It always made every move of mine tiresome and slow. I had to use the plan of dealing with the four lands to fake an empty central area and draw you out. Clap. Zhuo Fan praised. Prime Minister Bailey sure is thorough, flawless perhaps. You've done marvelously this past century. Steward Zhuo, please, this is what I've done these years. Now it's your turn. How would Steward Zhuo settle this situation? Bailey Jingwei smiled. Zhuo Fan waved him off. Prime Minister, come on, I'm calling you flawless and you're saying I'll handle it. Steward Zhuo, there's no need for modesty. As the best minister, I always wanted to compete with the best steward once more. Don't disappoint. Bailey Jingwei's eyes shone, his smile sinister. Zhuo Fan smirked and nodded. If you insist, I'll just have to make a fool of myself. Like I said, Prime Minister Bailey had done marvelously, taking the lands and solidifying the empire. Attacking and retreating at the right moments. Though what if I saw a crack in the Prime Minister's plan? Tearing it to reveal a crippling weakness, haha. What? Bailey Jingwei's heart jumped, his smile gone as he cupped his hands. Enlighten me. Zhuo Fan droned on. The crux of Prime Minister Bailey's plan are spies. But what if these spies were already picked? Bailey Jingwei shook, his eyes landing on Bu Xingyun and the others. Prime Minister, don't listen to his nonsense, we check out. Bu Xingyun panicked and then cursed Zhuofan. Hey Zhuofan, stop poisoning the well. We never betrayed the empire. Zhuofan chuckled. The world bears witness to sect leader Bu's heart. I know you didn't betray it. What I meant was, we didn't either. Shengguan Monyang and the others announced, sweating buckets. They saw firsthand how Bailey Jingwei dealt with traitors, through the Luo clan's fate. He sentences the whole clan just because of an unsteady heart. Bailey Jingwei needed to have but an inkling of doubt and they were deader than dead. So they declared their stance from the start. Zhuofan chuckled, not you either. I meant Prime Minister Bailey. Me? Oh. Bailey Jingwei shook. Zhuofan said, Prime Minister, if your spies had been exposed from the start, what would you have done? Bailey Jingwei's face twitched, turning grave. Tell me. Sure, it's my turn anyway to talk of the 100-year plan. Zhuofan nodded. Can a leopard change his spots? Can a shrew turn into a nice auntie at the drop of a hat and take responsibility for her son? Don't you think it's a bit of a stretch? Sure, it's easy for a girl since women are always flexible, hearing of it reeks of something fishy. That's why I put a tail on her. I saw her trying only to further her authority and never contacting the central area, but I was certain this was only a matter of time. She's after revenge and alone it's impossible. As for sect leader Bu, I doubted him the moment he got all 4 lands leaders in the same spot. Then he rose through the ranks and furthered his power while exercising extreme caution. It didn't fit his wild nature. Recalling Shengguan Monyang, I figured out it was someone's plan. The Prime Minister avoided all contact the past century to protect them, but they all acted the same, aiming high and staying low. Going for power while avoiding conflicts. Bailey Jingwei's face shook, unease festering in his heart. If he found out everything from the start, he has the skills to make it all come crashing down. Zhuofan read him like a book, but I didn't pay attention to any of it, letting you have your fun. If it were so easy to plant spies in the enemy camp, why then would you have resorted to an all-out war? It was precisely because of the huge losses after the war that presented this chance. I just couldn't bear the thought of ruining the Prime Minister's pet project after all that effort. Speaking of, I have the heart of a girl, quite a softie. Though I'm a family man. Ugh. Bailey Jingwei faltered, his face twitching. If you're a family man, then the whole world has only cruel monsters. The Luo clan looked bleak as they sighed. Steward Zhua hasn't changed a bit after all these years. Can't he have just a shred of decency? Chapter 1161. Turnaround. Chapter 1161. Turnaround. Proofreader, Papatonks. Steward Zhuo, what did you do next? I'm eager to know. Bailey Jingwei stared hard at Zhuofan, his voice stiff. Then tell me, what game are you really playing? Zhuofan nodded. Sure, I'll say this first. The empire had gone through changes, but its strength remains. With the Prime Minister handling things, restoring it to its former glory was easy. As long as its power remains concentrated, it's undefeated. So I had to help your ambition and give you leeway to enact your plan. What? Bailey Jingwei gasped. You let me? Then. Taking a deep breath, Zhuofan showed a twisted smile. Prime Minister, remember the empty city tactic 100 years ago? Was and wasn't. But now it couldn't be truer. Empty city tactic. Bailey Jingwei started, turning to the Sword Kings who attacked the 4 lands. Shengguan Feiyun was first to say, we assaulted Shengguan clan, but there was no one in sight and we had no trouble seizing eastern lands, though there were more fugitives. Our assault was real, killing throughout the Sea Bright sect, but the Snow Peak 4 elders and Ouyang Chongqing were gone. Those cowards fled somewhere and we couldn't pick their trail. Bailey Yuyun said. Danqing Shen paused and nodded. Murong Klang was deserted, then we found out about Murong Shui. Why didn't any of you say anything? We thought it was normal that. Bailey Yuyun showed a bright smile and shrugged. They must have found themselves weak and at the news of our coming they fled. It's obvious. Yes, logical. Zhuofan smiled. What makes even more sense is when you received news of bestowal for your efforts. And you couldn't smear your record with some pesky mistakes, right? Haha, but these omissions proved to be crucial. Don't you know that grass sprouts from anything, be it fire or floods? Bailey Jingwei heard Zhuofan's disdain and grimaced with clenched fists. Bailey Yuyun found it scornful. What's so bad about some homeless fools? Dissy. Report. A frantic man shouted, echoing through the imperial capital as he rushed to present a jade slip. Prime Minister, this is very bad. The Western Lands Army breached the borders and is marching into the central area. The defenses were overwhelmed and are in dire need of reinforcements. What? Bailey Jingwei and everyone else wore masks of disbelief. Bailey Jingwei grabbed his collar, turning hysterical. What the hell happened? Didn't the Western Lands capitulate? Why are they attacking the central area? That, the man stammered, put on the spot. He was just the messenger, knowing nothing. Another shout came with the same urgency. The Southern Lands Army breached the borders and are heading inland. Prime Minister, please send reinforcements. Dong. Bailey Jingwei's mind blanked out, his eyes staring into space. The Northern Lands revolted and punched through the borders, heading for our lands. Prime Minister, send reinforcements. Another frantic shout came. Zhuo Fan mocked and taunted. Your Prime Minister had his men ready to deal with me. He can't spare one man for you. Tell them they're on their own. Devil Palace Lord is a heavy criminal, ha. Zhuo Fan. Bailey Jingwei glared with bloodshot eyes. What the hell did you do? Zhuo Fan shrugged, but then a melody intervened, sounding cheerful and snappy. Even the tone-deaf could hear its meaning. It's not he who did it. He only came up with the plan and went into seclusion. We did everything. Zither Sword King? Bailey Jingwei raged. Why would you sell out the empire? Lu Mubai said, Prime Minister Bailey, my people died from this same heavenly punishment. 2,000 years ago, I sought shelter in the empire and I'm unclear if the invincible sword forgot about it or merely disregarded me, to not mention the execution. I joined the Dark Demon Lord to crush the empire and avenge my people. That is reason enough. What? Bailey Jingwei gaped incredulously. Even so, how could you have led the empire's elites to strike back at the empire? They all are loyal to it. You might get to lead them once, but they'll never go as far as to betray their country. Zither Sword King showed a vague smile, the zither playing, and if they never were central areas? WH-. Bailey Jingwei's mind stopped working. Zhuo Fan was kind enough to explain, Prime Minister Bailey, I told you the empty city tactic now was genuine. Did you really think the empire would seize the lands at the end? We'll see who takes over who soon enough. Bailey Jingwei staggered back in realization. Prime Minister, to be honest, while the Luo clan suffered, I have always been watching from the side, wanting you to make your move on the Western Lands. This way the Empire's forces would scatter. While the men you sent into Western Lands had long since been destroyed by the Luo clan and Zither Sword King. The men posted in Western Lands are Western Lands soldiers in Central Area uniform that Zither Sword King helped hide. The border guards thought them as themselves and opened the arrays, followed by their immediate defeat under a sudden assault by Western Lands forces. The same for the other lands? Bailey Jingwei asked in shock. Zhuo Fan nodded, you're catching on. It was all a diversion. Thinking your world order came to be, your guard on the four lands loosened and the soldiers at the border were called back, giving the lands the perfect chance to strike. Ignore his foolish words, Prime Minister, the northern lands is ours. Bailey Yuyun intervened, for the way it was said painted every leader that attacked the lands as traitors. Zhuo Fan smiled, with a red-nosed old man patting his shoulder. Bailey Yuyun, you don't have to explain yourself. That's the hard truth. Wine Sword Immortal. We took northern lands, but after you left, I ordered the army to assemble in a valley, so that Ouyang Chongqing and the others would kill them off. That's why it took me 3 days to come. SSS. You, Bailey Yuyun gasped and fumed. The drunkard has always been sloppy, but actually so vicious when he wanted to be. Those were the lives of millions of elite soldiers. Bailey Jingwei turned his stiff head to Dan Qingshun. Dragon-cleaving Sword King was delayed for the same reason. Yeah, though I didn't have a good excuse like Wine Sword Immortal to fool you, so the brat gave me Miss Murong to use instead. No matter how suspicious you are, seeing such a prize you'll forget everything. And sure enough, he was right. You fell for it hook, line and sinker. Dan Qingshun nodded. Bailey Jingwei was a blowing volcano now, looking now at Shangguan Feiyun. Sword King Feiyun, you can't also be. Prime Minister, I'm not like these bastards. You know of my hatred for the Shangguan clan. With my land the only one stable, it proves. Report. A guard rushed in with a ready jade slip. The eastern lands is in revolt, with fighting all over. Prime Minister, send help. Shangguan Feiyun flinched and Zhuo Fan chuckled. Yes, Sword King Feiyun was the only one who I never tried to turn. He's very much loyal to the Empire, as are his men. Though I wouldn't bet on them for help, Prime Minister, tied up with the sudden revelation of the Shangguan clan, ha. Damn you. Bailey Jingwei pointed at him in rage, his ears turning red. In just 10 days the campaign spanning the 5 lands flipped through a turnaround, from the Sword Star Empire ruling supreme, to being attacked from all sides. Bailey Jingwei never saw it coming. He had lost once more to this deadly opponent. Chapter 1162, Last Showdown. Chapter 1162, Last Showdown. Proofreader, Papatonks. Zhuo Fan raised the corner of his mouth, revealing his grand plan to the incensed Bailey Jingwei. Prime Minister, it was quite impossible for Devil Palace to grow without gaining some attention. But a few decades ago, I had the Prime Minister notice it on purpose, even going as far as letting your spies slip in. Care to know why? Bailey Jingwei was white as paper, his breathing ragged and unable to speak. Quite simple, because I wanted control. Not just of me but over others as well. Zhuo Fan said, if you'd been in the dark of Devil Palace, then you'd go all out against the lands and we'd raise a revolt, though it wouldn't do any good. We both know how the First World War ended. With a couple of frightening words from you, the leaders of the lands were happy to follow along. You went home at once to douse the flames and keep the empire whole. No matter how much damage was done, all can be rebuilt in time. The empire would survive. So I let it slip into your reports that Devil Palace existed and even let you send spies to give you false control across the board, when I was holding all the cards. With Devil Palace a thorn in your side, you'd never send all troops in. I controlled the rise of all your spies to control how fast you'd act. If you'd still been greedy like in the last war, you'd have struck only when all was perfect. Bailey Jingwei's rough breathing grew and he leaned on Bailey Yuyun for support. His raging eyes, however, never left Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan went on, you'd never have made your move unless you had enough intelligence, so I let it trickle over to your spy and led you along to believe you're in control. It was a stalling tactic really, since I wasn't ready, but once I let your spies get the right rank and learn more info. That was only limited to the central area, since any info on the 4 lands would let the empty city tactic fall through, ha ha ha. Why did you make Wu Randong rebel then with all the shadow forces? Is it to draw my attention? Bailey Jingwei roared. Zhuo Fan smiled, with Wu Randong showing a wide grin. Prime Minister Bailey, that's what makes Palace Lords so brilliant. You went after the lands and faked an empty central area, aiming to catch us all in a trap. If I hadn't come out, your other Sword Kings would have been stationed here for nothing and you would send them to the lands to fight, thus figuring it out. As long as Devil Palace stayed in the central area, you'd never know rest and would not advance your plans, making it a matter of time before the problems in the 4 lands would catch your attention. So we were thrown away to give you peace of mind. In your joy, you never bothered to check the war situation in the other lands, jumping to the next step, luring our Palace Lord and other enemies. You gathered all your forces in the central area, leaving the borders defenseless. This led to the 3 lands armies you thought were defeated to get deep into your empire. Talk about setting oneself up for failure, making the enemy work from within and outside to attack you on all sides. Compared to last time, Prime Minister, you lost completely, haha. I see, the Devil Palace in the central area was just a cover for your operations in the 4 lands. Bailey Jingwei nodded, then his face twitched harder. Zhuo Fan, you're good. I accept my complete loss and you have my complete respect. Bailey Jingwei spat the last words with hatred, but the respect was still there. Zhuo Fan was the only one in the world capable of being a step ahead. His hatred was born of nothing more than his inadequacies, while his respect was genuine. Zither Sword King sighed, turning to Zhuo Fan. To overcome Bailey Jingwei's 100-year plan every step of the way makes him a truly terrifying man. The others shared a nod, looking grave. Don't think you've won. The empire won't fall. It shall endure for a very good reason. Bailey Jingwei roared, pointing at the convicts. You wanted to save them, so I will cut them down first. Let's see how many you can protect by yourself. Empire defenders, Sword Kings, kill them. Make his win a bitter one. Yes, sir. The 6 Bailey Sword Kings flew into action at the convicts. Shangguan Feiyun was hesitant which side to take, but recalling that Zhuo Fan slighted him, he joined the central area Sword Kings in the end. Danqing Shen and the rest were friendly with Zhuo Fan, not to mention they had done marvelously. I got nothing instead and he didn't even consider picking me. Why the hell would I side with him? Umph. Shangguan Feiyun was set to side with the empire regardless of its fate. He had no other options. Whoosh. Zither Sword King hoisted Bailey Jingwei by the neck, shouting, "Bailey Jingwei, have them stop." "Humph, I won't. I may die, but Zhuo Fan will lose to me here. He gets the great victory while I'll leave a scar on his heart, ha." Bailey Jingwei snickered, leaving the Zither Sword King helpless. The Sword Kings listened to Bailey Jingwei because Bailey Yutian ordered it, while hardly caring for his fate, or that the emperor would survive. They would not stop unless he spoke up. Zither Sword King sighed with worry at Zhuo Fan. Dark Demon Lord is strong, able to take all those Sword Kings, but they're focusing on killing his people. He can't look after all of them, so could he protect so many people? Zither Sword King knew he cared for some of the people there. With the death of any of them, his heart would be in pain. Zither Sword King shot over at once, wanting to help. Danqing Shen and Wine Sword Immortal were already there. But since they were all Sword Kings, they were a moment behind compared to the 7. A fierce wind came at Murong Shui as Bailey Yuyun showed a wicked smile. As dreadful power blew over Ling Yuntian, Bali Yuyu glanced at Zhuo Fan, and decided this man could die from his lack of reaction. She didn't want to kill anyone who Zhuo Fan cared about or to be at odds with him. Bailey Jingwei would have been pissed if he knew. "Bali Yuyu, you rotten turncoat, why the hell are you going for Ling Yuntian, who Zhuo Fan couldn't give two licks about?" But now he was too drunk on revenge to see clearly that he had another traitor in his camp. Bloodlust washed over the scaffold and the convicts, making them feel death on their necks. They glanced at Zhuo Fan with pleading looks, but he just stood there like a statue. All were on the verge of crying. "Dude, aren't you here for us? At least fake it." Bang. As the Sword King's power inched closer, so did death clench their hearts in its grip. Zhuo Fan acted like he abandoned them as a boom resounded in their ears. The 7 Sword Kings backed off as they saw 7 people in front blocking them. "Shui, you all right?" A man in red stood next to Murong Shui, having a fire cloud badge on his waist. She cheered, "Brother." "Shangguan Feixiong, you finally show up?" Shangguan Feiyun stared at him. Shangguan Feixiong cupped his hands. "Feiyun, have you been well this century?" Shangguan Feiyun sized him up, the jade badge on his waist catching his eye, that of a mountain. "Dad, leave Bailey Jingtian to me. I have a score to settle." "Be careful." The father had a badge with a river while the son wore black with fangs on his badge. Another man in black, a youth, had a sun painted on the back of the robe, turning to them, "I have a score as well. Leave him to me." "Why should I? I'm stronger than you." "Tisich," the youth with the fangs badge huffed. Zhuo Fan stood still all this time, while the others around were stunned at the familiar figures that had vanished at the end of the First War. Only the Devil Palace disciples cheered seeing them. "Our 5 Dharma kings and emissaries are here." With all experts present, the last showdown could begin. Chapter 1163, One-Sided. Chapter 1163, One-Sided. Proofreader, Papatonks. The 3 coming to the rescue halted, looking stunned. Murong Lai, Shangguan Feixiong and Ouyang Lingtian were missing for a century. Now they were Devil Palace's Dharma kings. "I see." Danqing Shen glanced at Wine Sword Immortal. "No wonder a drunkard like you would side with Devil Palace. You were close with Murong Lai." "Come now, it's totally normal for friends to visit each other, haha." Wine Sword Immortal's red nose wiggled as he laughed. Danqing Shen nodded. Wine Sword Immortal was with the Empire, but he longed for something else, always having a soft spot for the Murong clan. Maybe he became a Sword King in the first place so he could protect the Murong clan. For when the Empire attacked southern lands at some point, as a Sword King he could save them. The 7 Sword Kings faced 5 Dharma Kings and the Sun and Moon emissaries. The 2 sides were not an equal match to begin with, but with the 3 traitors added into the mix, the Empire's side would lose out. Emperor Bailey Jingshi frowned, losing his cool for the first time. "Jingwei, what do we do?" "Your Majesty, relax, we're not at the end yet." Bailey Jingwei looked bleak, gnashing his teeth and roaring, "Soldiers of the Empire, attack. Kill them all." Roar. At his order, thousands upon thousands of experts poured in from up, below, and everywhere around, filling the imperial capital with their bloodthirst as they made their way to the scaffold. "I knew it was a trap." Zhuo Fan grinned. Danqing Shen and the others started, looking at the experts storming in and shot around the convicts to shield them. SSS. The imperial capital's people gasped at the scene, filled with fear and running all over the place as their hearts hammered in their chests. Curses, we've come to see a show, not be part of it. Why must it be so chaotic? First the foreign sword king's betrayal, now the imperial army? Heavens above, I don't want to be collateral damage. Wailing inside, the people ran off in seconds. The army cared not for bugs, their targets being Devil Palace and the traitors. Rumble. Dan Shen and the others watched the black clouds coming closer with heavy looks. Zhuofan took a deep breath and said, "This looks familiar. Did it happen in the last war?" "Yes, Steward Zhua, you used the same tactic on our patriarch, now it's used on you." Bailey Jingwei sneered, "The empire may fall today, but I don't care about the lands anymore so long as I have your head. The three lands' armies are invading and the empire might be surrounded, but before they arrive, you'll be going to hell." Zhuofan smiled. Shengguan Feiyun and the others snickered. "The empire can fall, but as long as we remain we can just rebuild another. It'll just take a couple more thousand years and another empire will rise. While you will all die here regardless how tough you are. The outcome has yet to be decided." Shengguan Feixiong. "Feiyun, don't get too happy. You won't get my head that easily." Shengguan Feixiong sneered. Shengguan Feiyun cackled, "Ha, anyone could say that but you who always lost during our spars. Brother, you've gone senile, so let me relieve that head off your shoulders. Let me be a good example for the other sword kings." Shengguan Feiyun shot for Shengguan Feixiong while the others moved as well. "Feiyun, don't you know time changes everything?" Shengguan Feixiong shouted as he charged as well. Murong Lai and the others followed suit, each with their own targets. Thunder boomed and explosions flared as the 14 auras clashed, making the world shake. Bam! Shengguan Feiyun and Shengguan Feixiong met violently with their soaring sword arts, unleashing incredible might when the red glows intersected. Shengguan Feiyun showed nothing but scorn, only to feel his side being grazed by a sword wave. His shock exploded just as his sleeve did. Then a power ran through his chest that sent his body back. He turned red as blood seeped out. Shengguan Feiyun's mouth shook, casting a disbelieving look on Shengguan Feixiong. "How? I lost, in one blow? I've always been the one winning in all our fights. How can?" "Feiyun, I told you time changes everything." Shengguan Feixiong smiled, "You have been vying for power the past century, yearning for eastern lands, while I focused on the sword, understanding soaring sword arts core while turning a deaf ear to the world outside. Your talent is better than mine, but your heart is unsteady, your mind clouded, that you made no progress in the last century. This is the gap between us." Shengguan Feiyun's face twitched as he glared at his brother, still in denial. "No. I'm better than you in every way, that's why I refused to acknowledge you as clan head when you were picked. Why now could you best me? I won't allow it, I won't." Bam! Shengguan Feiyun raged with a red face, hearing a loud sound coming. He saw a shadow fly by and Bailey Yuyun's scorched face came into view, spitting blood at his side. "How is this possible? Murong Lai was never this strong." "Bailey Yuyun, you were there as well when Bailey Yutian and the three-headed crow fought. Did you learn nothing from it?" Whoosh! Red flashed and Murong Lai popped in his face, eyes burning with grief. "How sad, a practitioner that could not see strength in another truly strong one. Are you really Bailey? Your talents are better, sharing blood with the invincible sword, but none of you inherited his ambition for true strength. None of you are like him." Bailey Yuyun squinted, glaring at the red figure with fear. Shengguan Feiyun shouted, "You're both Sword King level experts yet you got done in by Murong Lai so soon. Because he's beyond a Sword King." Bailey Yuyun's eyes were hard. I noticed their eyes changed after Patriarch fought the 9th level spiritual beast, as if their level changed. After 100 years of training they rose higher, above a Sword King. "What?" Shengguan Feiyun turned to Shengguan Feixiong and his faint smile. "Among us three, I'm still the weakest, with the worst talent and had yet to change. Only my mindset grew, having found a new understanding of soaring sword art. Now you should understand that first you're a martial practitioner so you could reach the Tao. That's what's important. With a clouded heart, you can have all the martial prowess but never could you touch upon the Tao." Shengguan Feiyun's beard shook in anger but his heart sank. He just realized that facing his brother he always despised he had fallen so far behind. It was entirely one-sided. The three having gone beyond Sword King level had no trouble dealing with the 7 Sword Kings. They were pushed back all the time, unable to even squeeze a draw. As for the soldiers of the Empire they kept pouring in for the scaffold, but Dan Shen's group of 3 fended them off. But not even they fathomed those 3 old guys would go through such a change in a century. It shocked them to the core. Then they looked at Zhuo Fan with a glimmer in their eyes. It was obvious he had a role to play in it. Jingwei, both sides have sword kings, so why are they stronger than ours? We can barely hold on? Bailey Jingshi was sweating buckets. If our sword kings fall, we have less ways of dealing with them. Bailey Jingwei grimaced, glancing behind at the thunderclap in the distance, his eyes glinting. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.